Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Joe Rogan. It's good
pleasure.
to be here.
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
I feel like I shouldn't have these on either. Show me that hat, bro. Let's go.
Oh. There's a couple. I hope I didn't overdo it.
I've been here for 3 years. It's about time I wore one of these fucking hats.
This is my brother made this belt and buckle.
Oh, nice.
That was an
that's
idea I
pretty
had.
sweet. Oh, that's very cool. Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, it's got my name on it and everything?
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's a handmade.
It's got a little elk antler. Look at that, folks. It's
Leroy
Christmas.
Gibbons made that.
Christmas, really?
I hope that fits.
I hope it fits, too. Here we go. I got a fat head.
Oh, it's backwards.
Oh.
Oh my
good?
gosh,
Is that good?
bro, that fits.
Fits. How's it look, Jamie? All right. You fucking... That face.
Honestly, I don't know how they're supposed to fit
That's pretty close.
because they stick up a lot, and I feel like that's not how it's supposed to be. But everybody says that is how. It's
So
supposed
it
to be.
does. There's like two modes that you can put it in.
Yeah?
You know, like there's just like if you're just out honky tonkin', or then if you're about to like, you know, get on a bronc or
I'm
something,
getting serious.
and you
Cinch
like
that
pull it
bitch
down, and it makes your ears crunch.
No.
That's
not-
like a fight mode.
I think maybe this is too small. Does it
I was thinking
stretch?
it's a 3/8,
Does it stretch?
a little bit, but
to heat it up. To
I'll
stretch
get
it
you a
out.
You gotta
half.
heat it up?
Yeah, steam it. No,
Steam
it's
it.
The whole thing. I don't know.
Made here in Texas.
Are they?
It's an American hat made in Texas.
Feels like an American hat made in Texas.
I'll get you a half. That's a 3/8,
It's pretty close.
but
It's
it's
right
pretty
about there.
close.
How's it feel?
You can
Feels
also.
like I'm a fucking real Texan. God damn it.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, my man's needs a cowboy hat.
I definitely need one. Now I have one. We're good. Now I feel complete. I'm
Yeah.
real close to saying y'all.
Yeah,
I'm getting close a couple times.
right around the corner.
I've been here for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I'm never moving. I fucking love this place.
Do you?
Yeah, love it.
I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Texas is fun. It's just like you go everywhere else and there's so many rules. You're like, why?
Yeah.
Why do you guys have all these rules? Like, do we really need them? Does it make you better? Does it make society better? Does it make you safer? Fuck out of here.
I feel like in Texas, you can experience true freedom.
Yeah. Well, this is a crazy place. Do you ever read the history of the place? You ever read like any books on how this place was sort of established, like when they conquered the Comanches and the Texas
Yeah.
Rangers? Like
The Llano Estacado and all that. Wild.
the history is just so insane. Like no wonder why they resisted becoming a state for so long. Like we got this.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Some of those stories are just like,
Oh my God.
you got to set them down and come back to them.
Yeah, Empire of the Summer Moon is like that. Like, there's some of the horrific tales of torture and what they... Whoo, those Comanche were some wild folks. They were some wild folks. I mean, if I could have, like, like an invisible bubble and go back in time and just experience it without them knowing I was there, I would love to see what that was like.
Yeah.
It was a brutal time, man.
I feel
Just
like,
brutal.
have you seen Lonesome Dove?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably pretty close to what it was like.
Yeah.
I mean, just guessing.
I mean, everyone's just sort of trying to recreate those moments and try to, but I think it's just hard to believe that when did they really conquer this area? It was like the 1800s. So less than 200 years ago.
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. This
Yeah.
place was wild.
Yeah, like
Wild.
my great-great-granddad was a Texas Ranger, and like he actually met Quanah Parker.
Whoa.
Yeah, in like sitting in a teepee with him.
Whoa.
And like he wrote a book. It's like really wild times of back in the day and like homesteading but it was like I'm not that far away from meeting that guy. I mean, obviously you can't meet your great-great-granddad, but
Right.
like you can
Not
almost
that
reach out
far.
and touch him.
Yeah, not that far when you
Yeah.
think about a human life, like how
Right.
long ago it was.
Right.
I would say like 1776, the United States was established. People lived to be 100. That's 3 people ago.
3 people.
That's 3 people ago.
It's 3 people ago.
I mean, it's when you think about it that way, you're like, wait, for real?
Right.
3 people ago was 1776, but yeah, you put them birth to death. That's real.
That's real.
That's real. That is all fucking snap of the fingers when it comes to
Yeah.
human history. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why people go to talking about changing. Like, I don't know. We're changing pretty fast.
It's changing pretty fast here
You
right
know?
now.
I think maybe we could slow down a little bit.
I wish we could. I had Elon Musk on the other day. We were talking about AI, like slowing down artificial intelligence. And, he's basically like, yeah, I said maybe we should do that, but no one's going to listen. It's
Yeah, he
not-
went to that conference at the end of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fucking scary shit, dude. Because as quickly as the world changed for the Native Americans when the Europeans moved here, that world is going to change even quicker for us if AI takes over. It's the Terminator, man.
And he's so close to it, and he's
Yeah.
worried about it. The way he talked about, just like the extinction people, and you guys are like, that's a whole nother world. I didn't realize like people that don't value human life are in charge of this. It's like, it gets a little scary.
Yeah, there's some people out there that are not well, and they miss the point, and they probably don't have anybody around them that gets it. But anybody that says, like, I don't want to have kids, and why would you have kids today? I would never want to bring a kid up in this world. People had kids before they figured out floors.
Right.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Like, don't you like people? This is my thing. Like, you don't want to have kids? Like, how do you think people get made? You need kids, and then they become people that you like.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. Yeah, it's difficult. It's hard. And if shit goes wrong for them, it feels terrible for you. Yeah. The world's crazy. But there's more books and medicine and information now than ever. Yeah, there's problems. Yeah, there's
Right.
there's never been a time when people have been alive ever that didn't have problems. We
Yeah.
create fucking problems.
We just kind of swapped them for
Yeah.
the early days. It's just different problems.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about starving to death anymore. Now we have to worry about being too fat and eating ourselves to death. It's a different problem.
We just got to put them on carnivore.
That would help.
Yep.
That would help, but then the people that are thinking they should eat bugs and only eat vegetables are freaking out.
Yeah.
Because there's this mantra that people chant out that, like, you need to stop eating meat to save the world. Like, that's not going to work, kids.
Right.
That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. You want to say we should get rid of factory farming? Yeah, horrific conditions that animals live under, there's no reason for that. They should be living like regenerative farming. We should figure that out. Animals should live like animals are supposed to live. They shouldn't be stuffed into little cages and, fucking pumped by machines to get their milk out. Like, it would be nice if things were more nature-like. Like, if you get like a good regenerative farm, like White Oaks Pastures or someplace like that, what they do is just recreate nature in a contained environment.
Yeah.
Cattle's roam, chickens roam, you use the manure to fertilize your food. That's how people are supposed to do it.
Yeah. Vertical integration.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like an ecosystem that it all, nature knows how to do it. It all works together. And when it does that, it's basically carbon neutral, which is really incredible. But instead of concentrating on the things we're doing wrong, they have like this blanket solution. We eliminate meat and save the planet. Like, you're still not going to save the planet. Like, it's not saving the planet. It's saving the human impact of the planet. And unless China's on board, and unless India's on board, you're not going to put a dent in that.
Right. It just seems like, yeah, like maybe it is making an impact, but like if everything else that's going on is going to cause it, I mean, how much of an impact at what cost? Like Jordan Peterson talks about are there some other things we could be doing with like helping poverty, raising up the impoverished?
That would be much better.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these resources that are going towards certain things. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't do some of it, but are there some other ways that I kind of threw out the playbook as far as like nutrition? Somebody said half the people that die of a heart attack didn't have high cholesterol. I think it was on Huberman that I heard
Really?
that. And you can fact check me, but like, I'm pretty sure like Huberman has said that, but like 50% of the people that died of a heart attack didn't have high cholesterol. And that like high cholesterol, it just made me question everything. I'm not trying to make like some scientific claim because I'm a cowboy, but it's like maybe meat is less of an enemy than what mainstream is trying to tell everybody. That's
Meat-
the main point.
Meat is
I got
eaten by
from it.
95% of the people on the planet, and we have since the beginning of time. If meat was killing everybody, that would have killed us off a long time ago. Meat's the most
Exactly.
nutrient-dense food you can eat. We
Yeah.
just have all these problems in this country in terms of what narratives are being spread and what information is being spread. And one of the big ones that started it off was it the 50s or the 60s with the sugar industry? So the 1950s, the sugar industry paid off these scientists to fake this study, to fake these results, and have it say that saturated fat is the cause of heart disease and not sugar.
Right.
Because there was an obvious increase. So here it is. Documents show that a trade group called Sugar Research Foundation, known today as the Sugar Association, paid 3 Harvard scientists the equivalent of about $50,000 in today's dollars to publish a 1967 review of research on sugar, fat, and heart disease. So it was a complete bullshit heart paper that these guys created that had everyone, including me when I was growing up, and most people that have listened to this that haven't looked into it. We thought that saturated fat was causing heart disease, when really it was sugar.
Right.
The massive overconsumption of sugar that started when people started adding sugar to everything, adding corn syrup to everything. When they subsidized corn, they had all this corn, turned it into corn syrup, started adding a sweetener to everything. And like people started getting fat as fuck and having heart attacks. And the sugar industry is like, we got to blame somebody else. Who are we going to blame? Like, let's blame this thing that people have been eating since the beginning of time. Let's blame saturated fat. And let's say, the dietary cholesterol affects your overall health. And like, God damn, cholesterol is like literally what you need to form hormones. Yeah. Cholesterol, it's a building block of your human body. It's like, it's critical.
Yeah.
It's a critical thing. And there's LDL and HDL, and to try to figure out what's you need like a Huberman to sit down and break something like that down to you. And then there's also hereditary issues that people have. Some people really should be on a low cholesterol diet, and some people have heart disease they're born with. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah. Yeah, the carbs and the sugar.
That's the big one, man. That's the big one. You can cut that shit out of your life, you'll be better off. You'll be better off, a lot better off. And I don't mean all carbs.
Aren't you on it right now?
Yeah, I'm on the carnivore diet. Yeah, but I did eat a pizza with Elon
minus
Musk.
the pizza.
I couldn't stop. Couldn't stop. Thank God Jamie took it away.
And then you got mad at him for taking it away.
I know. It's like fucking. I was like Gollum in the Ring. My precious.
My precious.
My precious.
How many of those slices did you smoke down?
At least 5 or 6, right?
There's only 2 left.
So he only had like 1 or 2. I ate most of the pie.
That's why he took it. He wanted a piece.
He didn't want a piece. He did not. He was not interested in fish.
It's fine,
Jamie is
man.
an anti-fish man.
That's right. You said that.
You know how
Yeah.
people are pulling all the fish out of the ocean? Jamie is not responsible
that's great.
for any of that. He lives guilt-free about the fish genocide.
Nothing to do with that.
If I had a piece of pizza, it would wreck me right now.
Well, you just got done working out with Tim Kennedy.
Yes.
That's not a good idea to do anything where you have to be functional for the rest of the day.
My man, Ty, in there that was with us,
Yeah.
we got done with the warm-up, and he went into the bathroom and started throwing up. The warm-up. Like, Tim's warm-ups are way more extreme than most people's workouts.
Yeah, and he does that all the time. He's not fucking around just for you. That's like he just took you. He didn't have to torture you. He just take you and do what he does, and that'll torture you by itself.
Well, I got him a ticket last night to your show, and that was how he repaid me.
By
He was
torturing
like,
you.
He was like, "All right, I'll go with you." You
Listen,
got
he was
workout
planning
for me."
on torturing you anyway. He told me when he had when he was sitting in here. He told me he was gonna get you.
Well, he
Yeah, I
did.
don't work out with that fucking dude. Get out of here, man.
He did.
That's a real savage right there.
Yeah.
Bonafide. Like I was saying, I bet that dude makes his gum bleed every time he brushes his teeth. He does everything hard.
Yeah, he works out the way you would expect him to after you have a conversation with him.
Oh yeah, he's intense.
Yeah.
But we need people like that.
I'd like to see him and Cam work out together.
Oh, it'd be fun. Yeah, has he not done Cam's show yet?
Not yet.
Oh, he needs to do Cam's
He's
show.
talked about it.
Oh, they have to do it. Yeah,
Those are the only 2 times I've thrown up in workouts.
him and
Cam.
Cam.
And with
Yeah,
Tim.
Cam is all about reps. He'll make you do like 100 reps of 135 pounds. Like, what the fuck are we doing, dude?
We got off that mountain and went straight to the bow rack. And I kept going into the bathroom. We're adjusting my bow, and I kept going to the bathroom, and Wayne was like, I think you need to check on him. And Cam was like, well, he's fine. It was like 12 miles, and I was throwing up. It was coming out both ends. Him and Tim, they're the only ones that got me like that.
It's hard to shoot after you're that tired too.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay stable.
Oh.
If I come here after lifting and I try to shoot, my arms are just, they don't communicate well.
No.
My arm doesn't want to stay steady. This arm's all shaky. It's just, he calls it lift, run, shoot, but I fucking think should be shoot, lift, run. I don't think you should. When I practice like archery in the morning, I don't do jack shit before I practice archery.
Yeah.
I want to be loose. I loosen my arms up a little. I would take some breathing exercises. I don't want to be out of breath. I don't want to be anything. Like, I know on the mountains there's going to be moments where you're out of breath and all that stuff, but I feel like getting in shape is the solution for that.
Right.
I don't think the solution is try to shoot when you're exhausted. You just develop bad habits. But Cam doesn't really shoot before he calls it lift, run, shoot, but he really shoots before he lifts.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you the same thing. Like, you really want to have confidence in your shooting, and the only way to do that really is to be like relaxed and not exhausted. You don't want your arms exhausted. The whole idea is like you're trying to build repetition over. You need thousands of reps to be able to execute the way he does.
Yeah.
You watch him. Every fucking day he does the same way. Every day.
Every day.
His muscle memory is just built into him. Whap.
Yeah. It was intense being up there. There's a lot of similarities between him and Tim. Mm-hmm. Being around him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're pretty similar to both of those guys, but
I'm a little more loose than those fellas. I like to get fucked up. I like to party a little.
Well,
I like to have fun.
Yeah, you're also a comedian, so you got that
it's
side
different.
To you.
But it's in the comedian world, I'm about as disciplined as it gets.
I can tell.
In the comedian world, my life, the way I live, is a little odd.
Well, if you're thinking about what I think you're thinking, like, how long? That was like an hour last night that you were on stage.
I had 2 shows, too. I had a 10 o'clock, too.
And I just kept thinking, like, damn, like, that's a lot of work. And the timing of it, like, I can't imagine the work you have to put it. Because, like, I got comedian in my bio, but that's really like YouTube. YouTube
Talking shit
is a little different than stand-up.
Yeah,
like,
it is. It's
and
different because you're not doing it in front of a live audience, but it's still being funny. I'm not dismissive of YouTube comedians. There's a lot of people that don't like when YouTubers go and do live shows. I'm like, you should be happy that anyone's doing live shows. Let's have fun. Like, what do you give a fuck?
Yeah.
Like some comedians don't like it when comedians use music or when they use props or when they use this or that. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Just go have fun.
Right.
You can put on a good show. You can put on a good show with a slideshow if you're good at it.
Right.
You figure out a way to put together a great show with slide. Pauly Shore's there this weekend, and he's got this great show of like the history of his life, like all these jokes written into it and everything. But he shows all these slides of him like as a young kid and all kinds of shit.
That's hilarious.
Him being babysat by Sam Kinison. So it's like you could do comedy all kinds of ways, and Pauly does it regular way too. But he put together this thing, like why not? Fucking do a YouTube comedy show, do fucking TikTok. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
have fun.
Yeah, that's. I guess my life was just kind of pointing in a different direction with rodeoing, and that was kind of my deal, and that's what all my time has been my entire life is like in and around an arena or on the back of a horse out in a pasture. But I've always had a respect for stand-up comedians. That's kind of my skydiving, I guess. Maybe one day.
You should try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sit down, come up with some stuff to talk about, fuck around, practice it, record it, see what it sounds like. Maybe try some jokes out on your friends.
Yep.
Maybe sneak it in there if you have a couple of beers.
Yep.
Just fucking dip your toes in. Who knows, man?
Most of the time with cameras, we'll do one take, but you don't get that second take on stage.
No, you don't. But you learn how to not get. You don't get that second take on a horse either.
That's 100% true.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with a lot of you don't get that second take, or you're shooting an arrow at a bull.
Right.
It's like. There's a lot of things in life you don't get a second take.
That's
you
a
can
good
prepare
point.
as much as you can prepare.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out how to go with the flow. You got to figure out the thing. And that's what's fun. What's fun is you don't know what's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
wee. That's some of the most fun things in life. You have fucking no idea where it's gonna go.
What's crazy about the stand-up part is whenever you guys go to talking to the crowd, like Matt Rife that you had on the other day, and like his crowd work and stuff.
Oh, he's great at that. Yeah.
That's where I think it's like you're able to still be funny, but I mean, like it's improv.
Oh
And
yeah. A real
crazy
good
talent.
guy who's really good at that. It's really fun to watch because they're just making a show out of thin air and fucking around with people. Hinchcliffe's really good at that. Andrew Schultz is amazing at that. He might be the best at it.
Andrew's
He's really good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Hinchcliffe was hilarious.
Oh,
last
he's
night.
man. He's a maniac.
His delivery, he's setting something up, and then
Yeah. This is kid Rick Ingram out of L.A. He's one of the best ever at crowd work. He's fucking amazing at it. He'll do his whole show with crowd work. He's got baked in bits too that he can go to, if like someone's from a specific place, and it's fucking genius.
Yeah.
He's a master at that. But it's there's a bunch of different ways to do it.
Yeah.
You could do it.
I
feel like anybody could do it if you're funny.
right.
You're definitely funny.
Yes, sir.
You
No,
can do
I
it.
appreciate it. I feel like, like I would get on a bull or a horse and like have a certain feeling, and then that would be completely different for me. I'm sure it would be swapped for a lot of you guys, if you had to switch and get on a bull, obviously. But
Oh yeah, every new crazy thing is a totally different experience. Like I can't imagine riding a fucking bull. That was one times on Fear Factor where I told the producers, "Don't do it, don't do it." I got there and they had one of the girls was like 98 pounds, just tiny little lady, and they had her riding this bull. I go, "Dude, don't do this to these people." And the stuntmen are some of the hardest dudes you will ever meet. Those dudes are not worried about broken bones. They break them all the time. They're not worried about shit. So they're not worried about themselves getting injured. They take precautions. They're professional, but they're definitely not worried about these fuckers getting injured either. They
Yeah.
don't want them to get injured, but they'll put them in danger.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are fucking bulls. And the stunt guy, he was hilarious. He always had a dip in his mouth, and he was on set so often that he stopped spitting his dip because he couldn't like carry around a cup, so he just started swallowing it.
Yeah.
So he swallows his dip. What kind of a man is just there swallowing dip for decades?
There's
That
a lot
kind
of
guy.
them.
That kind of dude.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Don't worry, Boo, they're stunt bulls." I go, "They're stunt bulls." I go, "Does that bull know he's a stunt bull?" I bet he thinks he's a fucking bull. I bet he has no idea what a stunt bull is.
Yeah,
And the stunt bull is like a less aggressive.
for sure. Yeah.
That thing was aggressive as fuck.
I call like the one I have, he would be like my bucket list bull, because like if somebody just wanted to get on a bull for the hell of it, like I would put him on this one black bull. We call him Trunk. He just jumps and kicks around there, and he's kind of predictable, and he's not mean at the end of it. And then we've got some other bulls that, will get it on in the gate and then be mean and might try to kill you. But I imagine, I vaguely remember the show, and what I remember about it, it would be like something probably a notch or two above Trunk, like my bucket list type bull ride. Like if you were to get on a bull, I would put you on Trunk.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm so not interested in that.
Right,
They
which I
don't
can
want me
respect.
on there. I don't want to be on there. We got a relationship that way. We got a good agreement.
And normally I try to talk people out of it.
Good.
Like I got my whole program revolves around like interns coming in. Like my Netflix show was those like my interns learning how to rodeo, and and so I've got guys coming in that want to ride bulls, want to ride broncs, and I'll tell them like all the things. Like, listen, number one, you could die, or worse, you could die from the neck down and not the neck up.
Right.
And I'll just be real with them. I'll have 3 or 4 of those conversations, and if they still want to do it, well, then I'll teach them, because there are some precautions you can take to minimize risk, but there's always risk.
Yeah, you might get kicked.
Yep, stepped on.
You might get stomped. You get stomped by a bull. Like, good Lord. Have you been stomped?
Oh yeah.
What does that feel like?
I broke a lot of bones. Like this, I broke my sternum. Like getting kicked, stepped on in the chest. Oh. That one's pretty bad. But a lot of the worst ones would be like concussions. Those are the ones that'll stick with you. Those bones will heal, but the concussions will kind of, that CTE, that's something that's not measured in rodeo.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You get some guys that all of a sudden start getting knocked out. they can think about getting jerked down and it might knock them out.
Yeah, that gets sketchy, right?
Yeah.
When their chin goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like fighters. You get knocked out too many times, then you get knocked out really easily. It's
Right.
very spooky to see. When I see it in fighters, it makes me very concerned. Like sometimes you got a guy who's just maybe had just too many fights, and they used to be real durable, and then you see him get dinged once, and you see like instantly the legs go, and you're like, oh my God, he barely got touched.
Yep.
And he got rocked.
Yeah, and there's just, I'm sure with fighters too, there's just this, once that sport grabs a hold of your soul, it's so hard to let it go.
And it's the most exciting moments of your life is winning and competing. And that high is so high that regular life seems like a dull gray.
Yes.
And I think it's very hard for them. And it's also hard for them because their identity gets wrapped up in
Yes.
being a fighter. A lot of my friends that have retired, they really struggle like trying to figure out who they are afterwards, and then they entertain one more fight, and it's like, but they don't really want to fight. They just want something that makes them excited again.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
there's kind of I think the winning and going down the road is part of it, and then you have those certain individuals that, and I mean, you know a lot of them in that world. I feel like Cowboy is definitely one of them, Cerrone, but like in rodeo, when there's somebody that is in love with the actual fight.
Yeah.
You know, like I think a lot of people, and these guys get weeded out. They don't have that long of a career in rodeo. I'm sure fighting's the same. That like they like to have fought. They like to have ridden bulls. Mm-hmm. But then you get those guys who like cameras are off, nobody's there, and they don't like they want to get on a bronc. Like they love the thrill of that fight. Nod your
Right.
head, the gate opens,
Right.
and it's you, and it's so pure. It's so pure. And I'm sure like a fighter that is just, they're just hungry for it.
Yeah.
The actual between the bells.
Yeah.
That's what's scary. Maybe all of them that on your level, they're all like that. I think they would have to be, I guess, to a degree.
Once they get to the highest level, I mean, that is who they are. You know, like with Donald, I mean, he's a pure fighter. But Donald is also he has a lot of interests. I'm not worried about Donald transitioning because I think he has a legit possibility to be a movie star. I think he could do it. If any of those guys could do it, I mean, movies are always looking for like a real hard-looking cowboy motherfucker, and Donald's that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's perfect for movies. I could see him, like Randy Couture's turned it into a career in films, you know, with the Expendables movies and all kinds of other shit. I could see Donald doing that easy,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, Chuck did it a little. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're working on a comedy. I don't know if you saw his short that he did at his ranch the other day on Halloween. He put out like a 10-minute, like a little mini movie.
Donald did?
Yeah, it's really cool. It was very well put together, and we're working on. He and I are doing like a comedy where.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got a guy working for me that's writing it right now.
Beautiful.
So it'll be fun.
I love Donald. He's a wild boy.
Yeah, he wants you to come out to his kids camp.
What
What
is his
passion.
kids camp?
It's in the summer in June. He just has kids come out and they just learn to be like miniature cowboy Cerrones. Like we shoot bows, guns. They roll every day, and there's sessions, campfire sessions at night.
That's
It's like
awesome.
50, 60 kids. That's probably the thing he's most passionate about now that he's done fighting. is
That's
that-
beautiful.
He talks about it all the time.
He's got a good heart.
Yeah,
He really does.
yeah.
He's a good man.
But
He told a story on this podcast about getting trapped in a cave while cave diving with this dude, and the dude panicked, and the cave got filled up with mud. You couldn't see anything. Even though he was right there, and I knew he survived, like it was one of the most fucking terrifying stories I've ever heard in my life because he was running out of air and he couldn't figure out how to get out of the cave because it was all filled with silt. So he's like searching around for the opening to try to figure out how to get out.
yeah, that's an intense story. Yeah.
Fuck. Thinking about his family, thinking about his kids and his wife, and he'll never see them again. He's gonna die in this cave. Like, fuck.
But he's got that never quit attitude.
Yeah. And also, like, don't go cave diving with people who panic.
Yeah.
You know, just people who panic are dangerous.
Don't do anything with people that panic.
Don't do anything. Like,
Yeah.
you have to experience panic many times in your life and figure out how to manage that before you start fucking around in caves.
Yeah.
That should not be the first time you really panic.
I'm nervous if a situation went down that I'm not saying I'd be some badass. I'm just saying, like, I might be too desensitized having been around rodeo. Like,
Yeah.
an emergency situation would be like, we'd be 8, 9, 10 seconds into it before I'm like, oh, man, we need to do something.
Right.
Just because, like, seeing guys get
Hurt.
thrashed in the arena and like, having to help them, you know,
Right.
like situations like that.
Right.
I don't know. But I'm sure fighters are the same way. But,
They definitely get desensitized to people getting hurt.
yep.
For sure. You know, one time my wife, she had like one of those SUVs with a hatchback thing, and she was taking something out of the back, and the corner of the door was above her head, and she didn't know, and she stood up and slammed the corner of it right into the top of her head, and blood starts trickling down her face. She was freaking out. And I looked at her, I'm like, it's like that big. It's like a little cut. We could super glue it. I was like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, to me, it was like, if that was my head, I'd be
Right.
like, oh, it's just a little cut. It's no big deal. But you're like, blood.
Yeah.
Oh. And I'm like, oh my God. It's a person I love more than anyone. And I'm so desensitized to like a little cut.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
This is like barely an injury. I'm so used to seeing people just busted open, their fucking eyelids hanging off their face. And I'm like,
Right.
don't stop the fight. Let them fight. You know, you're so used to seeing guys that probably have a broken hand because they haven't thrown it in 2 rounds. You're so used to seeing guys get fucked. I've seen so many guys. I've seen like 4 guys have their legs snapped from checking kicks now. You see so many injuries.
Yeah.
I get so desensitized to seeing people just getting fucking knocked into another dimension with a head kick. It's so normal.
I rodeoed with a guy. We went together for years. Ross Sherrod, he was a Marine, so he came back from Iraq and started riding bareback horses, and he got jerked down into like a pipe fence and just like crushed his face. Oh. Like had to like surgery and he just never knocked out, just like stood up. And he's this little stocky, you know, Marine, you know, like door-to-door Marine. And he just like walks out and is like, I'm gonna go down here to the hospital. Just blood everywhere, broken eye socket, broken everything. And you know, we helped him. And but it made me think, you know, like I feel like I've seen quite a bit of injuries with the rodeo arena, but I can't imagine guys like Ross or even Tim,
right,
who have done MMA and been to Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know.
different level of seeing people get fucked up.
Yeah, watch somebody come out without an arm, not just an
Yeah.
arm broken.
Well, you know Tulsi Gabbard? She
Yep.
has that white streak in her hair.
Mm-hmm.
That came when she was deployed, when she was working on these medical units.
Dang.
Yeah, that's where she got that, just from the horrors of seeing all these people shot up, blown up,
Just
trying
the
to
stress of
save
it?
their lives, trying to put them back together again. Yeah,
Dang.
yeah,
Yeah, that's something you can't unsee.
yeah. There's so many people in this world that have experienced nothing
Right.
and they're just floating around,
Yeah.
not having any experience with any kind of chaos.
Yeah, a little bit of pain here and there is, I don't know, just to show you what the good times mean.
It gives you some perspective for sure.
Yeah.
And seeing how vulnerable the human body is. You know, we're vulnerable as shit.
Yep.
Whether we like to think of it or not, think of yourself as a badass. You're still made out of basically a fucking meat water balloon.
Right.
You know, it's
It'll make it. Is this water open?
yeah. Let's grab that.
It'll make a guy come to Jesus on the back of the chutes. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Especially coming back from an injury.
Oh, I would imagine.
You know,
because
like-
then you got to get back on the horse.
Right.
Literally.
Yep.
Yeah. How did you start rodeoing? How old were you?
I mean, I was born into it. My dad was. I was on the roughy end of the arena. So like if you go to a rodeo arena, there'll be timed event side and a rough stock side. The timed event is like team roping, calf roping, barrel racing. And then the rough stock end is the bucking horses, bucking bulls, bullfighters, pickup men. There's 5 things you can do down there. Bareback saddle bronc bull riding, and then the pickup man and the bullfighters. So there's 5 jobs you do on that rough stock end. And my dad did all those. And so, like, I grew up like a roughie, so to speak, and fell in love with all of it. And, it's kind of 2 stories. Bull riding, I'm the greatest of all time and the most humble, I'm sick and tired of YouTube pulling down all my bull rides. It just gets old.
Do they pull your bull rides down?
I'm just so violent. But bronc riding has been like the thing that I've chased. And like that's one of the last things my dad did. And bronc riding, it's similar to bull riding, except it's a horse, not a bull. And but yeah, I got started young and got on my first bull whenever I was like 10 or 12.
Oh my God.
And and then it was all downhill from there. I had a little bit of fear involved, but I just knew that was the path I was going on no matter what. And my dad didn't push me, but that was in our blood. That's just what we did. And I was going to do it whether he pushed me or not. And then I just, once that fight, experiencing that fight of every night, I wasn't much for the partying. There's a lot of guys that all of it together, the partying and that lifestyle, like I enjoyed having a good time. But for me, being behind the chutes, getting ready for that fight, that was what kept me coming back.
I would imagine very few people party as hard as rodeo guys.
I would agree with that. 100%.
In Vegas, there's a lot of times where UFC events or I'll do a comedy event and it'll align with when the rodeo's in town.
The NFR.
And those dudes are just different. Like you could see it in their fucking face. They're just different.
I'm usually driving them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been, the sober one of the group. But
how'd you avoid the partying?
My dad did it. And so, like, just when I was a kid, like, I've not really ever succumbed to peer pressure. Like, I just kind of was going to be on this path. And he was like John Wayne mixed with Woodrow Call mixed with Billy Graham. Like, he was like a Christian man, hard cowboy, but still a hard ass. And it was, so he didn't like tell me like you can never drink, but I just didn't. And then before I knew it, I looked back and I just hadn't drank and I was having a pretty good time. I'm like Theo Vaughn. Like when I get something, I get it. And I knew that if I got that, it would get me. I just know that.
Yeah, that's why I've avoided cocaine.
I don't do cocaine. I do like the way it smells, but I don't do it.
I've never even smelled it.
I'm just kidding. I haven't done that either.
I had a friend of mine when I was in high school, and his cousin started selling it. And his cousin, like, is almost like a dude who got bit by a vampire. Like, he became a different person. Like, he lost a lot of weight, got really skinny, wasn't eating. And him and his girl they had an apartment that was, like, in the attic of this house. And they would just sit in their apartment and, like, do coke and watch movies and sell coke. And his life kind of just, like, slipped away into this very bizarre addiction thing. And this was like, I guess I was like 16 or 17 when that was happening to him. And I remember thinking, like, fuck that drug. Whatever that is, that drug fucking grabs you. I don't want to have nothing to do with that.
It seems like one of those forks in the road. And like when you do try it or do it a little bit, like it's going to take you down this other, like your life takes a turn. Like that seems like a good illustration of it's just like, what would he have been like had he never done that,
Right.
Like it just, that, and maybe that's kind of the way I viewed alcohol, but.
Well, it certainly is the case for some people. I mean, if I had an alcoholic in my family, maybe I would have avoided alcohol too.
That was kind of me too. I did have that. So.
Yeah, if you have that too, and you see how it could wreck someone's life, it's hard, man. It's having control over your urges, and especially if you have a physical addiction. Like you get physically addicted to alcohol. That is one of the ones that if you kick it too quick, you'll die.
Yeah.
Alcohol and benzos, Xanax, when people just try to kick that cold turkey, there's a possibility you could die.
Yeah.
Scary shit.
Yeah. I thought it was my sternum. I went in, I had some big life stuff happening, and I was like, went in my doctor. I thought like, something with because my old man died of a heart attack, actually while he was at a rodeo, and like in the arena. But anyways, I had like some chest pain, and he went in, and doctor was like, "Well, do you have anything big going on?" I was like, "Yeah," and then he started talking about Xanax and all this, and I was like, I guess half-assed like panic attacks or whatever. I don't know, and I was like, "Oh, that's what it." Okay, forget we had this conversation. I just walked out. Like I didn't want no part of like, that kind of stuff those kind of drug or pills or whatever you want to call them would just grab me and not let go, I think.
Well, that's Jordan Peterson. I mean, it took him like a full year to recover. So it took him a long time to kick it and then a full year to get back to normal again.
Yeah.
That Xanax stuff is scary, and they're just willing to give it to you. They're like, "Hey, Dale, what are you freaking out a little bit? Here, take this. This is our anti-freak out pill."
Yeah. It'll only cost
Apparently, it's amazing. I've never done it, but apparently people who've done it, they go, "Oh, like all of a sudden life is a breeze." Like, wee.
And I'm sure when there's, like it was for me in that moment, like there's this professional telling you should take it, makes it like, oh man, this guy said I should.
Hey,
this
he's got a
isn't
fucking stethoscope on.
Yeah.
He's legit. He's got a pocket protector.
Yeah,
or a
that's
pen
like
in
Dale
it.
Brisby. I got this buckle on. You might as well
Legit.
listen to me about bull riding.
Must listen.
Must.
Yeah, and they want you to try it out, and unfortunately they're incentivized to do that, which is even scarier.
Yeah.
And also a lot of people want it, right? So if you're a doctor and you got someone who's got a lot of anxiety, and you say, "Would you like Xanax?" Like, "Yes, I would," and then boom, they got it, and they're like, "Thank you, doctor. I feel so much better." Well, he did his job, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
Just not for me.
Yeah, me neither.
So you didn't have like the sternum wasn't like rebroken or anything. It was just a panic thing.
Yeah, I was just short of breath, and it was kind of the start of me like starting to look into like, cholesterol and whatnot, and like really, and it ultimately led to like, I'm just going to change my diet around, but that had nothing to do with the panic attacks, but that was kind of it snowballed into like me changing my diet and doing all kinds of different
Just
things.
realizing you got to get control of yourself.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. But there's a lot of people that argue that I went the opposite direction now, just eating all meat.
Yeah, those people, I think they should try it.
Yeah.
It's the best I've ever felt.
Right.
I feel my best when I don't fuck around with bread and carbs. I don't think salads are a problem, but I do think there's a real concern about the amount of glyphosate that gets into people's system from monocrop agriculture. That's real. I don't know how much that's doing to you, and I know that there's been many times in the past where people have dismissed the health concerns about a certain substance, and then later on you find out, no, that fucking kills people, causes cancer, and it's a real problem, and it's contributing to all these autoimmune issues, and this and that and that and this, and like, oh, now we know. But it took 10 years before people figured it out.
Right.
There's a lot of like very legitimate people that are sounding the alarm about the dangers of glyphosate. And the fact that when they did this blood test, like this study on people, and they found that like 90-something% of the people had glyphosate in their blood. Even if it's a small amount, like there's a lot of apologists who want to say it's a small amount, and it's very safe. Like a small amount of something that kills you and causes cancer I don't like that. And it doesn't sound good in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that should be dismissed, especially when we don't have long-term studies. And how long have they been using this shit? A couple of decades? Who fucking knows what it's doing to us?
I don't know. What I do know about is like the beef, and like, well, I know more about that than I do vegetables and farming. And like, I'm a fan of, I just watched this, calf grow, and I fed him out, and then I took him and got him processed, and now I'm eating him. You know, and like there's just something to that where I don't know, that seems like natural to me.
Yeah.
And that seems like the way God designed it. And I like grain finished, but some people like grass fed, I think, whatever. And but that just I don't know, I just don't feel like that's wrong.
I don't think it's wrong either. And I think there's a reality of life and death that a lot of people avoid. And they think that by not eating meat, you're somehow or another making life better for them. If you wanted them to live naturally, they would get killed by wolves, and it would be horrible. And the way they get killed, they get their fucking hamstrings torn off, and they get taken down, and they immediately tear their guts out, and they swarm them, and it's a horrific death.
Yeah.
Horrific, long, painful death. And if it's not that, they're freezing to death, And if it's not that, it's mountain lions. If it's
Starving.
not that, it's bears. If it's not that, it's starving.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of being an animal in the wild. And if you think that somehow or another, like pasture-raised animals that are just chilling, having a good time, eating grass, not a concern in the world, and then one day they get fed into a chute and they get a bolt in their brain, it takes a second, and they're instantly dead. That's a better death, a better life, all the above.
100%. I went to the sale barn the other day, and I took an old bucking bull there. He was probably like 10. Like, if you're eating beef, odds are that sucker didn't live past a little over a year, like at the most. And so, like, this joker had an extra 9 years on his life as a bucking bull, and it's pretty laid back. You know, he does his deal once, twice a week. And when I sold him, I bought another bull. I thought he looked cool, and now he's at my house, and he's a bucking bull, a practice bull. But those other order buyers that were in the sale barn, if they'd have bought that bull, like, he was going to go. I guess this is just like an extension of what you're saying. Like, even with rodeo, people that argue with it, like, man, if anything, I'm giving them a better life, you know. But regardless, whether that bull would have come to be a bucking bull at my house or gone to, you know, be burger, I don't know.
Is that what they would normally do to them when they're done with them? They turn them into burger?
Yeah, so whenever you get like an older cow, an older bull, the steaks from them are just not as good. Like, you want a young, either, like I said, grain-fed for me to like this perfect point. You got people in the feedlot that'll watch them, be like, that one's ready. And that's what, like, if you go to these steakhouses and get a prime ribeye, like, that was a calf that was, I mean, that was not an old steer. You know, he probably weighed 1,200 pounds. And once he got to that weight, it was his time.
And a steer is a castrated bull, right?
Correct.
So how old are they when they castrate them?
We'll usually do it pretty young, like maybe 3 months old. Yeah.
And the whole idea with that is if they grow up like that, then their meat is more tender, then they get bigger.
Their hormones just go a completely different direction. You know, and you can tell, like, in a pasture, my dad could tell just even a 6-month-old, just he'll come down the chute, he'll look at his head, and he'd be like, we got a heifer, got a bull. But, like, when they're older, like a year or two, you can tell out in the pasture, like, that's not a steer, that's a bull. Like, the way they grow is much different. They're like, a bull is going to be more lean. A steer is going to have more fat to them. And heifers will be that way too. They're not as good to eat as like a steer. Like, if you're getting a prime steak somewhere, it's probably a steer.
How come?
Again, like
muscle?
those hormones, like they're so like a steer is going to be more muscular than a heifer. Like, he just doesn't have the focus of like reproduction that she does.
Right.
You know, and now he doesn't have any focus of reproduction now that you castrated him. And so, like, he's all about, his only deal is he's going to grow and sleep. He's going to eat and sleep. And so you grow them and eat them to this perfect point in the feedlot. They'll start on a cow calf. There's 3 phases. When they're born, it's called cow calf. And that's the more sexy part of cowboying and ranching, is like, you see them out in the pasture. And then that middle phase is the stalker phase. And that's where, like, a yearling, you'll wean them at like 600 pounds and almost a year. Then you'll send them to wheat pasture, and they'll be there for, you know, they'll gain however much weight, maybe get to like 900, and then they'll go to the feedlot till maybe 1,200 pounds. So that's the 3rd phase, is the feedlot, and they'll get finished out, and then they'll get slaughtered at.
Have you ever eaten an old bull?
Yeah. So I had an old bull get crippled, and I was like, well, let's just try it. Like, I got some ribeyes. Now that I'm on carnivore, like, I need the meat, you know?
Right.
And I had this old bull get crippled. And sometimes when they get real bad crippled, you don't want to take them to the sale barn, so we'll just process them. And it is so much tougher. It's so much tougher. Like, they wouldn't even sell it at the grocery store. Like a 10-year-old bull, if you get that ribeye, it's just not good.
Did you try different ways of cooking it? Did you try, like, because I would think that would be,
There's probably
similar.
some ways you could doctor it up. And when I say it's not good, I'm talking like compared to a prime 1 steak.
Right.
From,
But is it more like wild game? Like, what is it
yeah,
like?
it's going to be harder to chew through. Mm-hmm. You know, like an old bull. It's just going to be harder to.
Even the tenderloins?
Even the tenderloin. Now, those are going to be better than like your sirloins. But they're still not going to be, there will be a noticeable difference between like that and a little over a year old steer that got processed at 12.
Because I've always felt that steaks are kind of unnaturally tender anyway. It's kind of weird that when you see the difference between like eating an elk steak and eating like a beef steak. It's like you're used to like if you eat an elk steak, you're used to chewing through it. Like,
Right.
That's what meat is supposed to be like dense fibers and.
If you like the round
meat.
steaks of an elk, then
Yeah.
that would be similar to like a ribeye maybe of an old bull, bovine bull.
Because I know there's a place in Vegas that that we eat at all the time. It's called Bazaar Meats, and one of the things that they have on the menu is old cows. Like he likes the different flavor that you get from an older cow, and so it's like they have that as an option. I've tried it. It's really good.
I was about to say, I'm sure those guys, as good as they are, like I just got like this griddle, I throw it on, and
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
And so
Old school.
I'll sear it. Maybe sometimes if it's real thick, I'll throw it in the oven. But they probably got all kinds of tips and tricks that they could make a 9-year-old bull taste good.
Well, they do it slowly over hardwood. So what they do is they have a fire and one of those Argentine grills, that cranks and lowers and raises it, a Grillworks grill. And so they'll have it up on high and it's getting just barely touched by the flames and a lot of smoke, and they'll slowly bring it up to temperature then, and then they drop it down and sear it at the end. And
It sounds amazing.
it's pretty amazing.
When I'm at my house, I like to cook them all the same way. That way I can kind of judge them the same way. You know what I mean? Like, this is my process. This is how I cooked it. If it
Right.
you know what I mean? Then I'll
Right.
know. But if I got to do all that extra stuff, and it's 3 meals a day. So, like, sometimes I'm just trying to have lunch, and I just
Right.
need to
Yeah, I need to do it quick.
eat and go.
Yeah, I get it. I
But-
get it. Yeah, it's So when you started and you were 10 years old, when was the first time you got fucked up?
I was at Charlie Thompson's. He's in Lubbock. And my dad used to work for Charlie. He's this old stock contractor. And he was like, Charlie, I need something for him that, I don't know, just jump kick. And he put me on this big bastard. And I don't think I was 13. I was maybe 12. And for me, it was big. But so like before that, like 8, 9, 10, like I'm riding steers and stuff like that. So but my first bull was right around 12. And this joker came out, big spotted bull. And they come up in the front end. And everything in bull riding is counterintuitive. So like when they come up, you've got to go up with them. And then, but your intuition is telling you to get back away
Right.
from their head.
Right.
And, this big scary bull. So like first thing I did is get back. Well, then when he drops, if you're back, he's going to like whip you down.
Oh,
And it's called getting jerked down. And it's the only time that I got jerked down, because every time after that, I jerked the bull up is what happened. I'm just kidding. But he jerked me down, smashed my face. And it didn't look like Ross's from that bareback ride, but for a 12-year-old, it was pretty bad. I wasn't wearing a helmet.
so you went face to head?
Face to the top of his head,
Oh, God.
which
It's like a brick.
I would have been what's called hat down. And now these days, like everybody wears helmets. Like JB, Mooney, good friend of mine, and me and him are two of the arguable goats, And anyhow, JB, he's one of the last ones. Like he's Marlboro Man, and he would go hat down. But like usually in a lineup, you'd see 1 or 2 guys doing that, and everybody else is wearing a helmet these days.
Yeah, it seems like a helmet would be a good move.
Yeah, especially like if I make all my interns like new guys. If you're an established bull rider and you show up at my house to get on a few, that's one thing. But if you're new, you're wearing a helmet
Yeah.
every time.
I mean, it just seems like it could save a lot of people, no?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But is
And-
there a thing still, like a bravado, about being a no-helmet rider?
There's just something to it. Damn, it's just,
It's got to be like a motorcycle rider, too, right?
I don't know. There's just something cowboy about it. Like, I hate to say that because, like, kids out there that might be listening to this, like, I think you need to wear a helmet. But, like, when JB Mooney is wearing, like, there's just something to that, like, ride or die. Like, this is, it's just, damn, I don't know. It gives me,
That's what I'm saying.
there's something to it.
Yeah.
I don't suggest it, but
Right.
like when he's got that Marlboro, and like I don't even smoke, and I don't think you should smoke. But when JB is smoking a cigarette and he puts that, he'll be in AT&T Stadium
There it
And
is.
he puts that cigarette down, and he's cowboy. That's a cowboy.
Show me a video of him riding. Okay.
There's I mean, Bushwhacker is one of the greatest.
is.
Yeah, that's in Houston. There's old Bo Sheath fighting
Does the
bulls.
audience appreciate it more when someone's just wearing that cowboy hat?
Yes. Kai Hamilton on the shoots, he goes hat down all the time too.
That is
He's-
so crazy, watching that thing kick and watching him stay on it. That is fucking nuts.
Yeah, he's there's a reason there's probably some goat emojis on that. Yeah, like I saw a couple of them. Yeah, people
Yeah.
GOAT. Yeah. I mean, that's it. He's
Look
just
at that.
so in the PBR, you can have there's a point during the bull ride when you can pick your bull. It's called the draft. And like they'll come certain times. There he is. Damn, I want to run something in the chute right now.
This gets your blood going?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is in Austin. I mean, obviously.
Look at him go. That is crazy.
There's Weston. He was there with me first.
How many times do these guys get blown out? Knees, ankles.
He's had too many surgeries to count. Died on operating tables. Like both shoulders done. He just broke his neck the other day. And that might have been the end of it for him. He did announce that he was done, but it took, and one of my buddies, Randy, was like, man, I'm sorry it had to be like this. You had to go out like this, breaking it. And he said, man, this is what it was going to take.
What,
To make
when you
him
say
quit.
break his neck, like what's the extent of the injury?
Like, get to the hospital, and they say, okay, lay right here and don't move till the surgeon gets here because you could be paralyzed if you make a move,
Oh, God.
if you make the wrong move. I've had 2 buddies this summer go down like that. Another one is a bronc rider, Jacobs Crawley. Like, they're like, do not move until a surgeon flies in and does this surgery.
Oh,
And that was his
God.
back, but it was JB's neck. Scary.
That's scary shit.
And that's the worst of the worst kind of situation, you know what I mean? But I'm not suggesting people go try this. Like, get on the other end of the arena, do team roping, do some calf roping. Like I don't know, like I just can't. I just have to be down here. It got in my blood and I can't get it out. And I'm going in for a surgery next week.
For what?
My shoulder. But I've had 2 back surgeries. I've had like 6 surgeries like in the last 5 or 6 years. Like I got to a point, I went several years with no injuries, and then all of a sudden it kind of, like in your youth, you're just hitting the fence, you're hitting the ground, you're getting stepped on, and then all of a sudden, like once they start, I don't know. But I'm going to get my shoulder redone.
Is the shoulders from falling?
It's dislocated 5 times.
Oh,
Yeah, 3 of them were in the last few months.
Jesus.
From riding. That was all from bucking horses.
And are you getting the shoulder dislocated from hanging on, or are you getting the shoulder dislocated from getting bucked off?
No, like the way I landed, like the first time it came out, like it was right before my back surgery because I didn't realize I was hurt, and I kept bucking off weird on bucking horses. And when I hit the ground, my elbow drove and it came out the front.
Oh.
And so like you kind of have a little bit of a socket that your shoulder's in. It's not like your hip, but
Right.
and so the bone broke off the front. And so now it's like I was trying to turn a horse the other day. Like I just reached down. He was running off with me, and I reached down to turn him, and my shoulder came out. And so we just kept running off. Like it'll just get easier and easier at this point. So that's when I got to have surgery.
What's the extent of the injury? What's going on in there? Ligament tears? Like,
That bone that holds it in
oh, so it's
is broke
broken off.
Yes, sir.
Also, it has to be screwed back in place.
There's another bone above that they can use, and he'll graft it and he'll screw it down to essentially remake that socket.
Oh, God damn, dude.
But it's bad, but also like I'm FaceTiming JB while he's in a neck brace, like it's like I'm not
It's all
going to
relative.
complain. Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, I went to go visit Jacobs, and he's like,
So this is the video of him breaking his neck?
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's not from super close up, but you can definitely see what happens here. It's not good.
So here he is.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah, so that's-
Christ. Oh, he landed neck first.
And then he ain't going to get pulled out of there by a stretcher.
Oh,
Like he's
God.
walking out. If his legs work, he's walking out. But he's hurting right there.
Oh, God.
They told him he shouldn't have been able to walk out. But he didn't get jerked down there. It was just the way he landed on the back of his neck. Like his vertebrae got like twisted in there. It like broke it and twisted it and somehow.
So did they have to fuse his neck?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like maybe a couple of vertebrae. Fused a couple of them.
Oh.
It's serious. Like I said, try calf roping.
But I guess once you do that, the thrill of it is probably very difficult to recreate in anything else in life.
Yes, sir. When you were talking about that a while ago with fighters, like that's what I was envisioning. Like, what level of fight is there outside of getting on a bull, you know? Same thing for maybe like Tim Kennedy when he got back from Afghanistan.
Well, I didn't know you guys call it bullfighting. This is interesting. Like, what is the difference between bull riding and bullfighting?
I'm sorry, I was talking while that video was
Right.
playing. There's guys around the bull ride that are bullfighters, and their role is to, when he gets bucked off, they go in and distract that bull.
Right.
So I think that was Nate Justice was fighting bulls there at that rodeo, and he snuck in, got that bull's attention, so JB can get out.
And so you're basically goading the bull to attack you.
Correct. But you got on cleats and pads, and you know, yeah, that's Nate, and
Oh, look how he fell.
I think
Christ.
that's either Nathan Harp or Cody Webster around to the right, like he's already getting that bull's attention. So like, and we're talking about like the best of the best bullfighters, so that JB's got no chance at getting hooked a second time.
Right. God damn, the way he landed, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Oof.
There's certain ways you get thrown into the air that's like scary. That I've the scariest moments are like when you're flying through the air and you can't control how you land.
Right.
Another scary moment is when you get hung up. There's a bad hang up on my Instagram. It was like 2 or 3 videos ago. Like when you get hung up by your hand, it's bad, but when you get hung up by your foot, and this kid almost dies, like in my arena at my house.
Oh.
But like, cause then you can't do anything. When you're hung up by your foot, by your hand, you're standing up, so your head's not under the bull. Yeah, that's Tyler Kipps on a bull we called Prison Mike. Good bull ride. Now he's about to get off. And see his foot?
Yeah.
See his foot is hung?
Jesus Christ.
So at first, like that's how you work a normal hang up when they're hung up by their hand. That's my brother right there, Leroy.
Oh.
I don't know.
God.
That's not really protocol. And then my brother comes in with a knife and look at him dragging. At that point, he's out of harm's way because his head is so far away from that.
Right.
But you can see his foot.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, man.
So right there, like where he could, like if he went under that bull, that's
Yeah.
where we're talking about if
Yeah,
you got
stomped.
stepped on. Like he could have just died.
Yeah.
And I'd been in that situation, so when I saw him in it, like it was like, okay, he's either gonna die here or we gotta get him out. Like one of the two. We either get him out or he dies.
Right.
And anyway, Tim commented on it. But and that kind of stuff, can happen really with there's accidents that can happen with horses or bulls outside of rough stock. Like you could just have a horse buck with you out in the pasture and little things like that. They're more rare. But when you go to rough stock, like riding bucking bulls and bucking horses, you kind of ask for that.
Oof.
But
It's such a strange subculture that most people aren't aware of.
it's a niche.
Yeah. But it's a very passionate niche.
Yes, sir.
And the people that are involved in it, man, it is everything to them. I think a lot of people, their eyes got open to it a little bit from Yellowstone, from that series.
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan's.
He's amazing.
He's the man.
He's the man.
Yeah,
He's a cool dude.
he is.
You know, he owns that 4-6s
Yeah.
ranch in Texas. It's
Yeah, I was-
270,000 acres.
I'm supposed to be there right now.
Oh, really? You
Yeah.
going there after this?
No, so there's, I go there in the spring and fall sometimes. There's like full-time guys that work there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they wean in the fall or when they brand in the spring, they'll hire day workers. And they'll just come in for like a week at a time, 2 weeks. and I would be classified as a day worker.
And what do you do there?
So like right now they're weaning. So the cow-calf phase that I explained earlier, where that calf is born and stays on the cow, well, when he gets like 600 pounds, they'll wean him. And so you got to gather the whole pasture. We'll put them in the pens, and we'll strip those calves off their mamas and send them to the stalker phase. So that's what they're doing. It takes like 2 weeks.
So on top of doing all your YouTube stuff and your podcast stuff, you're still out there doing like real ranch shit.
Yes, sir.
Do you love that?
Yeah. I mean, this was an easy thing to say, like, hey, Dusty manages their Dixon Creek branch, and he's one of my best friends. But I was like, Dusty, I got to go up here. And he was like, yeah, you got to go up there. But yeah, like if I wasn't here, I'd be there. And I get to film a little, like Taylor, he doesn't mind me like little Snapchats and little videos here and there, because he also knows that I'm going to promote the 4.6s. I'm not going to disparage anybody. And so, but yeah, like I've seen opportunities, and my lawyer's like, dude, you got to get out of that small town and come to College Station or Austin or Dallas, Fort Worth to grow your business. And I just can't. I'll be smaller and stay where I'm at. Like it's just, I'm not going to trade this lifestyle for more money.
You just love it that much.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about it that just gets in your blood like that?
I mean, like you felt being out, elk hunting. Cowboys get that every day. And then when you get to do a job on the back of a horse, and there's so many things involved. Like you've got to know that horse, you got to know the cows, you got to know your guys next to you. And when you get done with a full day's work, like there's just something super romantic about being able to accomplish that task.
I don't think anybody ever recreated it to a point where people understood it before Taylor did. There's something about the way the Dutton family describes it on that show that it's like, how many people moved to Montana because they saw that fucking show?
And it's real.
Yeah,
like people feel that way about ranching. They feel that way about rodeo. And it's just, and there's so much passion behind it. And here's the thing, like the cowboy way of life, Chris Ledoux had a song, like, you just can't see him from the road. Like, it's not dying. You just can't see us from the road. Well, I have a job now because I got good at Snapchat and, and I'm showing the world, like, what's going on out here.
Uh-huh.
And when we did the Netflix show, they were like, what should we call it? And I was like, well, I get 50, 60, 100 messages a day from people wanting to be in my intern program to just learn they're sitting on a couch in Maryland and they're like, I want to learn to be a cowboy. And so that's why we called the show How to Be a Cowboy, was because the world is interested. Like I foresee rodeo and the ranching industry growing. Like I'm super optimistic about it. Like if legislation and all that bullshit, can fade away, where people think cows are the demise of, society, like then if that can like not get in our way, then the future of agriculture and rodeoing is super bright, because America is interested. The world is interested.
Yeah, they are. And I think people are interested in something that they weren't totally aware of, but that looks like it has this very passionate following. And that's the thing about people who ranch and cowboys. It's like they fucking love it. They really love it. And there's a lot of people out there that they want to know, like, why do they love it? Why does everyone wants to have something that they love the way a lot of people love ranching. And they're like, why? What is it? What is it about cowboying? These guys seem so satisfied and fulfilled. Like there's something very appealing about that to the average person that doesn't really like what they do. And there's something rugged and pure about it that just seems to appeal to people.
Well, it's definitely more than just a job, like if you had it's a job, and then like I said, it's got that lifestyle passion factor to it, where like if you're working on an assembly line, in a warehouse, when that bell rings at the end of the day and you clock out, like sometimes like that's it. And if it's 5:00, you're out of there before 5:01. Like I was in a factory the other day, and it's like, it was midday, and I was like, what are these people doing in their cars? And they were like, well, it's break time. Like, they leave the building. By the time they get to their car, they only got like 9 minutes. But they hated their job so much, they didn't even want to be in the building. So they went out to their car for their break. And just in the ranching and rodeo community, you have people making arguably the same amount of money on average. You know, like, it's not a high-paying, lifestyle. But they're not leaving right at 5. Like, they're passionate about it. They're roping the dummy or working with a horse or, heaven forbid, solving problems, cows out on the highway kind of stuff, But it's something that grabs a hold of you. Cowboying will grab a hold of you the same way that, like, rodeoing grabs a hold of you. And I'm honored that, like, I have this program where 3 or 4 people a year get to come into it and they get to learn that. And I've got a few guys, like my intern, he's been with me the longest. His name's Donnie. And Donnie was working at a bar for his dad in Missouri. No horses, nothing around him. And he came in and he learned to ride broncs. And after 4 years, like, now he makes money riding broncs. Now, I don't want him to get hurt because I would feel a little responsible, but, like, he's hooked on this lifestyle now. And I don't know. I wish and I pray that everybody had some sort of opportunity in their life to grab a hold of something the way that rodeo and cowboying grabs a hold of me.
Well, I think that's what's appealing about it to people, is that the people that are involved in it love it so much. And for someone who has no experience in it, it doesn't make sense. Like, what is it about it? So that's one of the reasons why people get so addicted to watching stuff like Yellowstone. It's like, other than the great writing and the drama and all that bullshit. But there's something very appealing about that, I don't want to say simple life. It's not simple. It's just not modern civilization. It's not the bullshit that you have to deal with in cities and traffic and bosses and fucking cubicles. And it's a different complicated, but it's a complicated that seems more pure and that has people that feel deeply satisfied about doing that job.
I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's a unique thing. Like, most of the time people driving down the highway, they just expect animals to be out there. And then all of a sudden you look over and somebody's on top of one of them gathering the other animals. And it's just like, what is going on? Like, if you knew nothing about it, if maybe an alien showed up, they're just like, and to see it, and they're just like, what are they doing, And so, like, to the uneducated eye, it's just so intriguing and unique. And then you get into it and you realize that, like, there's a code and there's there's passion and it's a lifestyle for people. And at the end of the day, if we just break even, well, it was a free vacation, and that's how people feel about money. And rodeoing, the only reason rodeo cowboys care about money is because that's how they keep score. And that's how, it's like, how much money did you win? Okay, now you get to go to the NFR. If they did like a point system, we would be so broke, because then we'd care about money even less, because that's not why we're doing it. But thankfully, anyway, and that's how cowboys that are like ranch cowboys are the same way. Like, I saw a guy the other day, he's a day work cowboy, and when you're a day worker, you bring your own horse, you bring your own trailer, truck, everything. You have your own insurance. Like, you're 1099. You're not W-2. And so, yeah, you might make $150 in a day, but if you blow out a tire, a new trailer tire is $250. So, like, you got to work 2 days for a tire. Well, I saw one the other day, and he bought this new bit, and I know his financial situation, but as soon as he got an extra $1,000, he bought this badass bit that he had wanted. Well, that's his thing. That's all he cares about, And, like, he's not doing that for money anyway. So part of that might also just be a little irresponsible with money. Like, you can be wise with what you're given, but at the end of the day also, like, for that particular person, like, why? This is all he wants to do.
Some people, money's just fun coupons. Once you get past food and shelter, it's fun coupons.
Yes.
They're not thinking 1099s, 401ks, and 40-year plans. They're just thinking, let's go.
That's rodeo cowboys.
Yeah. Well, there's something appealing about that to people. The people really enjoy watching other people that love what they do, because I think that's what we all want. We all want something that we do that we love what we do. We look forward to it. When someone sees something that's so counterintuitive, it seems like such hard work, so difficult and time consuming, and it just requires everything of you. And it's not like a thing you do for a couple hours and then take a break. Like, no, you're doing it all day long, every fucking day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just started jiu-jitsu. I'm like 10 rolls in, 10 sessions.
How's your shoulder holding up to that?
It's pretty good. The guy you met out there, Ty, like he's my partner. We take it pretty easy. Like I don't know even what half guard. Like this morning I rolled with a big guy and he was like, "All right, get in half guard." And I was like, "Okay,"
You don't know what half guard is?
Yeah. I mean, once he put me there, I was like, "Oh yeah." But I'm learning. But like starting out jiu-jitsu is very similar to be like if you wanted to learn to rope something. Like your very first time against for instance, this guy was like jiu-jitsu Dan or something, this big 250. In like a minute, he submitted me 15 times. And he was just rolling through me, like folded me like a cheap chair. And that's what it would be like if we went to the ranch and had like some sort of like roping, riding type competition. It would be the opposite because like he's got these years of just everyday grinding at his craft where mine is, and most of these guys that are raised in the lifestyle is rodeoing and cowboying.
The jiu-jitsu lifestyle is very similar because people get really banged up and they can't stop. They can't stop training. You know, I had a bad neck injury that just kept getting worse because I wouldn't stop training. I was like, it's all right, I'll work around it. And I never worked around it. And then my hands were going numb and I was like, motherfucker.
Yep.
You know, and then I finally had to get it worked on. But it's a thing where people get so addicted. They get so addicted that time off is just so fuck.
You feel worthless.
Yeah.
You feel worthless.
Also, it's just like there's something about the struggle of jiu-jitsu that makes regular struggle easier. Makes regular life easier. It's like a medicine. It's like this literal life or death struggle that you're having on the mats, which is about as safe as a life or death struggle can be because you were training partners, and if someone does get your back and they do sink in that choke, you can just tap, and then you're back to square one, and then you start again. But that guy just killed you. That's what just happened.
Yeah.
He
For
killed
sure.
you. He killed you.
Yeah, he killed me 15 times.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what's going on. And so if you get accustomed to that life or death struggle on a daily basis where that is your high water mark for difficulty, it makes everyday life way easier. Now, when that high water mark is removed completely from your life, normal bullshit, bill stuff, like nonsense, your neighbor's complaining, your fucking dog did something, that becomes more tense and more difficult to handle.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. Like you don't have the adversity that you need in order to have what you have built up in your life as like a healthy existence.
I'll say that my interest in jiu-jitsu has been I just get nervous about a lot of people show up to like a booth that where I'll be like doing autographs or whatever, and like I just get nervous. Like I told Cowboy, all I have is that I'm not in terrible shape and I probably won't quit. But other than that, anybody who's like done any training could just walk through me.
So you're worried about like someone coming up to you that maybe just thinks like your videos are serious, and when you're talking all that shit that you're
100%. Yes, you're there. You just arrived there. 100%.
Yeah,
and then they just grab my hair and then I'm done.
Right.
And that makes me nervous. And so I guess like every little session, there's this black belt that comes over and teaches us, and he's so smart. And I'll just, at the end of each little move, and I'm like, okay, but if they're trying to kill me right here, and he'll teach me like some street tactics, you know, because like that's essentially what and I don't think, I mean, just like you, like I'm sure, most people that come up to you are just,
most are nice.
They're so nice.
Vast majority of people are real nice.
It's one potential instance out of maybe 10 years.
One potential crazy person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would like to be kind of ready for that.
Yeah.
Whereas with rodeo, my drive to do that was a little different.
Yeah. Have you done any striking?
I did one session at Cowboys Camp with Coach Ray, his coach that had been around for a while, and like one 30, 40 minute, and I could see that being really fun. But
yeah.
My dad was a boxer, so like we had a punching bag in the barn growing up, but nothing like I said, I wouldn't anybody with any training could walk through me.
That's a good thing also, though, for alleviating stress. Nothing like hitting a bag. Hitting a bag is like one of the best stress relievers ever.
Yeah.
You just whomp on that thing, and after 3 rounds of that, you're like, oh, I feel pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
You just feel relaxed and just squeezes all the caveman out of you.
Right. Just really release it.
Yeah.
We were supposed to at this last kid's camp, but I'm supposed to fight Cowboy.
Oh, no. In what way?
Just, I don't know. We were going to do something, like just kind of get in the ring and.
He'll be nice to you.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Everybody says he's going to kill you. I'm like, he's a professional.
They'll touch you up a little bit, but he's not going to kill you. He'll pop you a little bit. He'll just touch you up. He won't hurt you.
Yeah.
Cowboy's not going to hurt you.
When we were first joking about it on social media, like a mutual friend of ours was like, hey, you're not like serious. You don't think. I was like, what are you talking about? But apparently random people just think they can beat him up.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Chuck Liddell used to have that problem, which is crazy. It's just some people are just out of their fucking minds. They see someone who just beats the shit out of people on TV, and they're like, I want to fucking try that dude.
Why do they think that like something in the cage doesn't transfer over to real life?
They think some people are just really delusional, and they think somehow or another because of whatever delusional thinking and their ego, and maybe they're schizophrenic. I don't know what it is. They just think that they could beat up Francis Ngannou. Like,
yeah.
I guarantee you, somebody somewhere at some point in time has tested Tyson Fury, has gotten in his face.
Right.
It's just like, it's crazy. There's people out there that are just out of their fucking minds, and they're just not well, you know?
I was at Power Slap like a week ago.
Oh, Jesus.
And I sat there and visited with Strickland for like 45 minutes. And he was like, yeah, that guy over there, somebody. He's like, I think he wants to fight an MMA guy. And we just got to talking about it. And I just like, I don't know that like I feel like Strickland would be really good in the street.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's not scared of shit.
You know?
He'd be awesome in the street.
Cowboy, too. Like, Cowboy's
yeah.
apparently been in like hundreds of street fights.
Yeah, there was a famous incident where some dude on a boat dock just wouldn't leave him alone, was fucking with him. The Cowboy's like, God damn it. And the guy did something, and the Cowboy just head kicked him, knocked him unconscious in front of everybody.
Is that the one where Dana had to get involved?
Yeah.
And he said Dana still gives him a hard time about it every now and then.
Well, you know, that guy fucked up, and he found out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He fucked around and found out that you're picking on the wrong dude.
So I heard that like when he was in the UFC, I guess maybe he learned his lesson there. And like he would literally, people be trying to fight him in the bar. He's like, bro, I will pay you $500 to just leave me alone. And then he retired. And I was like, hey, you still paying people not to fight you? And he was like, nope, bring it on. He's like, I will whoop your ass in the Jiffy Lube. I don't care.
Because now he doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, he's not worried about it anymore.
But he's still, it would be a problem. Everybody knows who he is. You know, he'd get sued for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if there's no cameras that show the other guy started it and the other guy has a fake story.
Yeah.
Because no one tells the truth about altercations.
I was with him in traffic the other day, and this guy like road raged him and was like almost trying to drive us off the road. And I was like, man, if this guy only knew that he was, but he just like calmed down. Like, I think he knows his hands are weapons. He's not going to use them against somebody.
Also,
randomly.
people have guns.
That too.
That's the real problem with road rage. Some people aren't playing by the rules. Just engaging with random people on the street is so fucking dangerous and stupid. You just never know. And you also never know where that guy is in his life. That guy might be suicidal. He might be ready to take you with him. He might have reached his end. Everything might have happened wrong for him that day. He might have caught his wife fucking his neighbor, or he might have went bankrupt. He might have, you know.
That's such a good perspective to have.
Oh, you always got it. You never know what the fuck that guy just experienced before he got in his car, you know, and that's why he's driving like a maniac. He's freaking the fuck out, you know, and if you contribute to that, now you're his focus.
Yep.
Yeah, that can happen.
I've like been like soul searching with, I guess, like my pride and trying to, you know, be more humble rather than prideful. And traffic is my gauge. That's where, for me, like, that's where I think
traffic.
For guys, like, well, I mean, I used to get pissed off at people, you know, but now, like, that's just kind of my gauge of where I might be at in the day. Like if I'm able to just let stuff go and not like compete with the next driver, then I feel like, you know.
Do you know why people get road rage? Do you know why it's so common and it's not common with people just walking around?
Well, I think pride starts it. And then from there, it's just like you feel like you're impenetrable.
Yeah,
Being
when
in
you're
a car.
There's definitely a little bit of that, but there's a heightened state of awareness because you're driving. Because when you're driving, you have to make fast decisions and you're moving fast. So
That makes
everything
sense.
is quick. So someone gets in front of you, motherfucker. You know, it's like you're already at 7.
Yeah.
You know, and so when someone just gets in front of you, they bring you to 10 like
Yeah.
that. Whereas in the walking around, if someone got in front of you, you wouldn't care at all.
Yeah.
Like if you're just walking somewhere on the street and there's a bunch of people walking and some guy walks past you and walks in front of you, it means nothing.
Right.
It doesn't even bother you. But when you're a car, you're like, oh, it's this fucking guy, because you might have to make, like, this guy decides to change lanes. You're like, fuck. Like, this guy's an idiot. He's making me hit the brakes.
Right.
Like, now I got to fucking, what are you doing, douchebag? Look at this asshole.
Yep.
And you're already ramped up.
Yeah.
And so people, they get so angry so quick, and that's why, because you're at a heightened state of awareness because you're driving. And when you're going 65 miles an hour, you have to make quick decisions. And when people are changing lanes and doing stupid shit, like, you're at the whim of their shitty decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I agree with you. I think we're saying the same thing. I think it probably amplifies. I think that's like a true test of someone's character, I guess.
Yeah.
Like like, I'm not saying like anybody that gets mad is a piece of shit because you got mad in traffic, but I guess for me personally, when I look at myself, like, it does, the heightened sense of awareness would like amplify the fact that like my pride is what's controlling me that day.
Right.
You know, and if I'm able to like walk through the day humbly, where I'm not at competition with people, well, that means, you know, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just hit the brakes, let them go, and I'll probably get to my destination at the same time.
Yeah, and
You
it's
know?
no big deal. Instead of like making this gigantic problem for no reason, like, pull over, fuck you, man, pull over. And then guy has a tire iron and you're fucking swinging at each other. Like, what?
Yeah.
Over what? Like,
Exactly.
What? And people die all the time doing that, fighting each other for no fucking reason, for zero reason, not to save people, not to protect property, no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Just because they let their emotions take control of them, they didn't have control of their mind and, you know, their humility and all those things.
And the sad thing is, they'll probably realize that
Yeah.
once
after
they
it's
calm
over.
down. Like
or
3,
if they get
4.
arrested.
Yeah, they get 5 days later, they look
Yeah.
back and like, that was so dumb.
So dumb. Yeah, when you're in a good place and you think about the stupid shit you do when you get angry, like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like, who was that person? How did I let myself become that person where I was fucking screaming in my car for no fucking reason?
Right.
Where I could have just let him go,
Yep.
him go, and then breathe, back to normal.
Yeah.
No problems. No
Yeah.
problems. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's where the true me comes out, I think. And then I'll go home and work on it.
Yeah. Well, it's good, man. It's always good to have something to work on.
But
How did you get involved in making these comedy videos?
man, so 10 years ago, July was our first video. But 3 years prior to that, I'd been like prank calling people. And like I prank called my dad. I prank called like,
What did you do with your dad?
oh man, I was sitting, he texted me. I was at A&M at the time, and he was at the ranch like 30 miles away anyways. And he was like, hey, call the house. I want to see if the phone works. And I knew he didn't have caller ID. So I called him, and he answered the phone like it could be anybody. He didn't answer the phone like it was me. You know,
Right.
usually I can tell his voice, you know, it was my dad. And he answered the phone like it could be anybody. And I was like, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, I got your radiator here at the shop, and you need to come get it. Like, it was real, like, impromptu, like,
Right.
and I just told him he needed to come pick up his radiator. And then I just started prank calling a lot of people. Like, it was fun. He fell for it, and hook, line, sinker. And then I just started prank calling a lot of people. And then, yeah, in 2010, no, I'm sorry, that was when the phone call was. And then in 2013, we turned on the camera and like just started saying what I'd been saying on all these prank calls, and we never stopped filming. And so like since 2013, like, I mean, I'm still rodeoing, still cowboying, still, you know, living my life. But then there was just YouTube got introduced, and, you know, so then it was more about, I don't know, I got to be me, you know. I grew up rodeoing. I grew up the class clown. My old man had me, he was an ag teacher too, and he had me in this organization called FFA, where I did a lot of public speaking. And so like I'd done public speaking, I was a class clown, I was a rodeo cowboy, and they all came together in these videos. And so we started 10 years ago, and I bet I made videos for 2 or 3 years before I even made any money. I didn't realize, you know, how to make money on YouTube. And then, you know, along the way, I started the apparel line, Rodeo Time, and that was kind of one of the things I always went to, like, it's rodeo time, old son. And the apparel line did well, and that's been kind of my main source of revenue, followed by YouTube and sponsors.
And so it started out just for fun.
For sure.
Which is always the best way to start something out.
For sure.
Because you're not thinking about it as a career, like, how do I get the most engagement? I'm just having fun.
We didn't make money for a few years. Like, I just didn't really even think about it.
Yeah.
And
that's similar to this podcast. When we started out, I never thought it was going to make money. It was just for fun.
2,057 episodes later.
Yeah, and a bunch of other ones.
And a bunch
There's
of
like all the fight companions. And the MMA podcasts. Yeah. I think that's the best way to do something. You do something like because you want to do it, because it's fun.
Right.
And that's what's most engaging to people, too. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because now you've got this Netflix show, but would Netflix have ever given you a show if you didn't prove that you could do something on your own?
Absolutely not.
No. And they would probably control it more and fuck with who you are more, and there'd be a lot of other people trying to shape what it is, whereas now they go, we got this kind of finished thing. We just need to apply Dale Brisby to this. We know who Dale Brisby is.
And they did try that.
Did they?
Yeah. Like it was, they wanted me to take my glasses off, and they wanted to like bring the story of my dad into it and like how he shaped me as a cowboy. And I just didn't feel like it fit. You know, like I'll talk about it here on a podcast, but like if I'm making a video, like I'm a comedian, you know, like I don't want to talk about. Anyways, I just didn't want to bring my dad into it.
Right.
And it was nothing against them, and they didn't have anything against me. It was a good conversation, but I was like, these are kind of some bugaboos. But I had already established like who I was for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so like I had the mob's approval, like in Gladiator, you know, he tells him to win over the mob, like yourself. Like it's Joe Rogan and then the audience. Like there's no middleman anymore. And like if I tried to do this 20 years ago, like you got to go through an agent and networks, and it's like, do those gray hairs think it's a good idea? And it's like, okay, maybe we'll try it. And then you maybe get to try a show. And like, so going through that whole acting route. Well, with the internet, I go straight to the source, and the mob approved of me. And so that was the beautiful thing. Like nobody could have planned like my small story, you know, much like you couldn't have planned yours, big story, but we went straight to the source and they liked it. And so then Netflix was like, okay, cool, let's do something with this. Same thing with Spotify.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way to do it.
So
do it because you love doing it, do it because it's fun, and then along the way get better at it, and along the way people start realizing it, recognizing it, and then they start calling up, and then I want to be in business with Dale Brisby.
Yeah, wait till they call you, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's a unique thing about our time. With things like social media, with YouTube and the like, you can create your own thing now, like Cameron Haynes has done.
100%.
You just create your own thing. And through that thing, you know, you don't have anybody telling you what to do, so you do it the way you think it should be done, and you learn how to do it better with each episode if you care. It's fun.
Yeah, he might even be more of a niche than I am, but like being like not only hunting, but specifically bow hunting, specifically elk.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, and then the mob approved of him, and he's running.
Well, he's also an undeniable person. You know, like you see what he's done in terms of like ultra marathon running, and his work ethic, and the fact that he did all that shit while he had a full-time job for the most time. For the last 5 years, I was trying to talk that dude into quitting his job. Like,
Yeah.
Every day I'd text him, quit that fucking job. Every day. You don't need that job. He was making more money from his sponsors than he ever was from his job.
Right.
But, he identifies as a hard-working, blue-collar guy, and that's what he always was his whole life. And he felt like somehow or another not having that job would maybe even disconnect him.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's the opposite. He works even harder now, but now he does what he wants, and he can actually sleep, and he has time to recover. And he said physically he feels better than he's ever felt before because, he has real time to train and recover. Before he was working 8 hours every day and then still running a fucking marathon every day when he was preparing for fucking ultras. That dude was running 13 miles in the morning and then another 13 at night. Wild shit. And then shooting his bow and then going to the gym and then getting up in the morning and going to work again.
Yeah, that's another level of passion that that's so, anybody that can run 100 miles, I think is, that's easy to say that they're just a unique individual.
Yeah. Well, he's done 240.
Like that alone is incredible, but then the sacrifices he made to go do that.
Yeah.
Like what you said, like all of his free time.
Yeah.
He's not going to sit in his car because he hates his job. He's going on his lunch hour to run because he's passionate about this additional thing.
Yeah.
And there's people like that in rodeo too. I think that the people that have that kind of work ethic, a little bit of talent, and then they're passionate about a certain thing, that'll go all out. And then eventually they're the ones that are successful, provided they stay healthy.
Provided they stay healthy. Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Especially with rodeo. I mean, any one day could be the last time you ever get it.
And the more you get on, the more you're reminded of that. Like it crosses your mind like I got in on I haven't been on in a couple months because I'm having this surgery. I was supposed to have it a month ago, but I just got down on in the shoot and we weren't even filming, and I just got super I just started crying, in the shoot, I'm emotional, and I had to get out and start over, and it looks like he's bitching out or something, but really I was just because I'm just thinking about my dad, thinking about this could be my last bronc ride, this could be it, and you just get overwhelmed, and then the smell of the arena and the music's playing and your buddies are there, but just that fight, as soon as the gate opens, it's just so pure. It's so pure, and all the shit talking, all that's out the window, and it's you and the horse, because the horse, he didn't hear it, Right. It's just can you execute the fundamentals in the midst of your emotions running amok? And essentially that's what it is, executing fundamentals in the middle of the fight. Or do you let the fear overcome you and you do what your intuition says to do, which unfortunately is opposite of what you're supposed to do. In bronc riding, you're supposed to lift on your rein and stay back. Well, your intuition tells you to sit up and pull. And I'm sure it's a lot of the same things in fighting. Your intuition is telling you to do this, and that's the move they want you to do so they can put you here. And so once you get control of your emotions and you execute the fundamentals, and that's what makes guys like JB so great,
There's something that people experience when they do something very difficult that makes them want to keep doing it. That the rush of doing that, of keeping your emotions in check in this insanely high pressure situation, that becomes so addictive to some people. Mm-hmm. It says it's so hard for someone like me to understand who's never done it, but I kind of get it. I get the mindset for sure.
I don't think, again, I'm not suggesting you get on a bull, but I don't think you're that far away from just realizing. I think the fact that the bull is involved is maybe what's so foreign to yourself and a lot of people that haven't done it. But once you get over the animal part of it, the unpredictability of an animal, you just oh, this is a thing. It's football or fighting or, going overseas. Those guys, I got to go on Marcus's podcast and become good friends
Marcus Luttrell?
Marcus. And since then,
I love that dude.
He's a big fan of you too.
He's an awesome guy.
Yeah. He's been kind of I don't want to say a dad to me, but I've used him as that, hey, what do we do in this situation kind of deal,
Yeah.
And, but when them guys go around the corner at a house, is there going to be a fight? there, and just that thrill of like, okay, now there is a fight. And I was talking to DJ Shipley. He's a SEAL Team 6 guy. And he told me, we were on the back of the chutes, and he was like, what I respect about rodeo is every time it's a fight. And he said, when we go into a room to clear a room, 95% of the time the room is benign. And so I looked up what benign meant. And but he said he was, you know, obviously the stakes are different in bull riding and, you know, guys going overseas and being in combat, you know, the stakes are much different. But he was just respecting the fact that when you do go around that corner, you have to execute the fundamentals in the midst of like fear and whatnot. Same thing. I'm sure there's guys going into the ring in the octagon where it's just like they don't feel like it that day, or this particular guy's got in their head. Well, they got to get that out of their head and execute fundamentals.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just, to them, that's that thing that they can't stop.
Yeah.
There's the thrill of that very insane, high-pressure situation and trying to keep your wits about you and stay in control of your emotions and just banking on your training.
Yeah.
And executing.
So guys like JB, I almost was telling this story a while ago. Like I love it, and it's one that everybody in our industry knows. But like one thing that sets him apart, like at some of those PBR events, once you get to like what would be like the short round, you get to pick your bull. And so that's unique. You know, at rodeos, you never pick your bull. It's more you get drawn your bull. Well, at these PBRs, there's instances where you do a draft and you pick it. And where you're sitting going into that short round determines when you pick. Well, there's this real famous bull named Bushwhacker, like unridden. Somebody rode him whenever he was like a 2-year-old. I wish I remembered the name now, but like he had this one ride when he was real young. But then once he started like going to all the big bull ridings, like nobody rode this bull, Bushwhacker. And JB picked him 13 times. Like he always picked that bull. Some guys would pick a bull they know they could ride. Like I know I can be 90, 88 points on this bull, so I'm going to pick him. You know, there's these other 2, 3 I'm unsure about, but I'm going to pick this one I know I can ride and hopefully win. JB went to Bushwhacker 13 times, and he rode him once.
Wow.
Like he kept picking him. Like the most dangerous, baddest bull in the world, undeniably. And he just kept going back to him, and that was one of those cowboy factors that, and they played Bad to the Bone, that They're a Good song. And when that song comes on, the crowd goes freaking nuts. And they know JB's coming around the corner. Like they don't play it for anybody else.
Wow.
And anyways, that mentality for him to pick that bull 13 times.
And so when you say he only rode it once, you mean he made it to 8 seconds once?
Correct.
Yeah.
95 1/4 points, I think.
Is this it? Bushwhacker.
This is Bushwhacker. I'm not sure if
Look
this
at
is.
the neck on that motherfucker.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, this is the one. I recognize that hat. This is the one where he does ride him. It's like
Again, hat, no helmet.
hat down, baby. Slide and ride. He does not waste time in the
Wow,
chute.
look at that bull.
That bull-
Oh, my God.
And he had a different trip every time. And then, bam.
Wow.
And the crowd goes nuts.
Look at that lady.
Confetti's flying.
Look at that lady.
Yeah. They love that man right there. Like,
Look at that lady cheering. Look at her face. Look at her face.
it's like she was riding him with her.
Wow. That's amazing.
There was one of those 13 times though. He picked him, and 2 seconds during the ride. So like he's on his back, just like he is right here, and all the lights go out.
Oh, no.
All the lights shut out, and that's one of my videos, just where he tells the story. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's actually on. Yeah, that one down there is
bottom
another
it says
one.
JB rides bull in the dark.
That's another one of mine.
Oh, same thing.
I got the algorithm picked.
You got
Figured
it
out.
wired.
Got it.
Dale
Yeah, you
Brisby
got it
keeps
wired.
popping up. But no, yeah, and so like 2 seconds in, the lights go out. And I was like, what'd you do? And he was like, well, I can't ride him in a lit up ass arena, much less in the dark. So he
just
jumped
bailed.
off. Yeah.
God.
That would be obviously I mean, I guess it would be similar to riding him if you were blind, but riding something in the dark, that would be the most.
So is he the only guy other than that person who rode him when he was 2?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and they retired him a few years after that, I think.
That's
Not long after
crazy.
that.
And nobody else tried?
Oh, yeah. Guys would get on him all the time.
Just
yeah.
They just
but
get
they
flown.
just didn't. I can't remember how many outs he had. But yeah,
How
JB
unusual is that a bull's that good?
in the
First time
PBR?
ridden in 43 outs. Wow.
In the PBR, I mean, like, there's so many great bulls. Like, Bodacious is probably arguably Bodacious and Bushwhacker are the two most famous bulls, I would say. And Bodacious, he's more like the 90s, and he had some rides, but the PBR these days is I think that's tough.
What a crazy thing to want to do. The bull does not want you on him, and you decide to get on him.
Yep.
And ride him for his. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I think that's tough.
That's what freaks me out when you go down and they're coming down with you.
Yeah, that's tough, Hedeman. Sorry, Tough. I should have recognized your shirt.
How long did it take to heal your sternum? That's a scary one to break. Like the thing that's right over your heart.
It kind of just did its own thing, just take a break. I don't remember exactly how long. It's been a long time ago.
How long did it take before it felt normal again?
The breathing and everything, like, it was, I don't really remember it, to be honest. Like, it wasn't like, it didn't just like crack open. It was just like a break. Like, it was like it might have even just been, I don't know what is considered like a fracture. But yeah, it wasn't like a life-threatening type sternum deal. But it was a sternum, is what the doctor said. But like, it wasn't like.
And was it from getting stepped on?
Yeah.
By a horse or by a bull?
Bull. Bull. But the back surgeries were the ones that were kind of, which they weren't near as serious as like JB's and Jacob's.
What did you get done?
It was a discectomies.
Okay. So you had a bulging disc and they took some of the disc material out.
Yeah.
Pushing against nerves.
But it didn't work, and they just
Yeah.
kept having to go back in. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like, it was enough to take me out for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, like I said, it's not near as serious as like what they did to Jacobs and JB. But it was something that just like took me out of the game, and then it's like now it's this lingering injury, one of half a dozen.
Have you ever gotten stem cells on them?
No.
They're doing a lot of stem cells with people with disc issues. My friend Shane Dorian just went down to Tijuana, and they actually put him under, and they inject stem cells directly into the discs. So the discs that are degenerated, that have experienced all the wear and tear, they go right into the disc and swell it up, and it actually helps you grow new disc tissue. And some people have gotten some pretty significant results from that.
What is it? Why is it? I mean, why you got to go to Mexico? Like, do we not have any?
America's fucked. I don't know why. I mean, you could ask the people that run the FDA. I assume there's a lot of factors at play, and probably some of them aren't beneficial to us. But there's a very big resistance to people being able to just go and get stem cell treatments. Although it doesn't seem to be any downside. I'm not seeing anybody that's getting stem cells and dying from the procedure. It's not what's going on. Like, you're healing. It's helping people heal. And I know so many people that have had significant results. But you've got to go to Mexico. You got to go to Panama. You got to go to Colombia. And these people that do that, they come back with amazing stories of healing. But in the United States, it's much more difficult to get that kind of treatment. They can't do what they can do over there.
Cowboy was suggesting that to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems like a miracle drug. It seems like don't have surgery, have stem cells. With my shoulder though, like, I mean, the freaking bone is missing. Like, I gotta,
Yeah, that seems like something you have to have surgery on.
Stem cells can't put a bone back, but yeah, there's like the back thing and some other random little things. He was just like, dude, you need to. But I don't know.
How old are you now?
36.
Yeah, that's when it starts falling apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when it starts falling apart for fighters. When I look at a fighter's age and they hit like 36, 37, I'm like, ooh.
The moment I turned 30 is when I first had my first back injury.
Yeah.
Well, it was a little before that. It was actually here in Austin which is in March in the short go.
What was that riding?
I was getting on a bronc. And he frapped me in the chute, so he reared up real hard, and and brought my legs down and kind of crunched my body together. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really realize it at the time. You know, I made a good ride that night, but then like later at rodeos after that, like I just started falling off. Like my right leg I felt like I wasn't stretching enough. And it just got worse and worse. I'd get out of a pickup, I couldn't stand up straight for half an hour. And I went to a doctor. Anyways, then I dislocated my shoulder, and finally I was like, all right, I got to go. You know, and I went to Tandy Freeman, sent me to Andrew Dossett, who does a bunch for the Cowboys, like worked on Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, and he's like, yep, we got to cut you open and do this right here. There's a lot of opinions on whether or not a guy should have surgery, but I was like, man, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
I'm going to take his opinion.
Well, you know, surgeons like to do surgery.
Yeah.
And a lot of surgeons don't have experience with stem cell treatments.
Right.
You know, what they know is, oh, your disc is bulging. We'll remove that disc. The part of the disc is bulging and won't bulge anymore. But you're cutting out the amount of cushioning you have in between your spinal column, and you only have so much of that. Mm-hmm. Daniel Cormier said when he got his back done, he was never the same again. He said, I'd never get back surgery again. And now that he knows, and most people know, that there's other alternatives, specifically stem cells, and people have had great results. I know a lot of people that their back was fucked, and they got stem cell treatments, and now they feel great.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah, so the back, so then it didn't work. I had another one, and it did get better after the second one. The recovery took like a year, and then like it started to feel better. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like it took a year. And like before I could like get on a bucking horse again. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, yeah, 3 or 4 months later, I'm doing all the normal life things. But before I get on a bucking horse, it took a year.
Because it just didn't feel strong. It just felt
well,
vulnerable.
and just, yeah, exactly. And then the risk of it re-herniating because of the time you know, which that part doesn't take a year, but just for me, it took a year.
Did you ever do anything to strengthen your back?
Yeah. I mean, I got like that deal you got out there. The
teeter thing?
Yeah.
Like
I got one of those. I'll do, and yeah, they gave me a lot of exercises, which is like routine for me. Like I do the routine stuff, like for a back injury. Same thing with my shoulder. So like that's why it's like I don't do the normal Tim Kennedy stuff all the time. I've also got these like workouts that revolve around injuries and recovery that I'll do. And but like when I went to Cam's, I was getting ready for Cam's, and I didn't tell him this, but I was at about a month before, like I was running a lot, you know, like trying, because I didn't want to be a bitch up on this mountain, you know, and my leg pain started coming back, and then my hips started hurting, and I was like, oh shit, it's coming back again. And anyways, I did the deal. We ran like 12 miles, and like I said, threw up in the bow rack. But I went back to surgeon. He was like, well, your leg pain's coming back because of your back, you know, but it should go away if you'll ease up on the running. But your hips, he's like, you have severe early onset arthritis. He's like, you got bone spurs all over your hips. You'll probably have to, if you did have hips replacement surgery, it'd be early. And he said it's just because of your lifestyle. But so like now every time I run, it's like I got rocks in my hips.
Yeah, don't do that anymore. There's got to be other ways to get in condition.
Sorry, Cam.
Yeah, Cam.
Joe said it.
That dude doesn't have any problems, which is amazing. I'm just stunned that he doesn't have physical problems. You know, he's a real freak.
It made me, like, I was just, like, up on the mountain, like, my hips are just, like, crunching. I'm like, how is this man doing this? Like, how is he doing this? Like, because he's in his 50s. Like,
yeah, he's my age.
And you know he's got some of those pains. He just doesn't, you know, like, tape his feet, like him and Goggins. Like,
yeah.
He's a different breed.
Well, I think it's just what you get accustomed to. Him and Goggins, they're just accustomed to a level of pain and discomfort that most people just would not accept, and they just accept it as a part of everyday life.
Yeah.
But with Cam, I don't think he has any like legitimate injuries. Like his knees don't fuck with him, his hips don't fuck with him, which is crazy. You think about the amount that guy runs and works out, and he's in his 50s.
Do you think that he's got, like, his body is conditioned? Like, obviously his cardio for sure, but I mean, like, his actual joints. They're like, we're okay with this kind of pounding because of how much he does it.
Yeah, has to be. Yeah, they've done studies on people that run a lot, and it shows that the cartilage and the meniscus and everything gets harder. It's your body gets accustomed to that. Whatever you force it to do, your body adapts. Sometimes to the detriment of the joint. Like Goggins he was bone on bone for so long with his knees and running thousands of miles bone on bone that his bone was deforming and distorting because it was like the constant irritation of grinding against the other bones. The doctor looked at him and said, I can't believe you can walk with these knees. Forget about run thousands of miles. So instead of getting a knee replacement, what he did was where the bone like bulged out, they cut that off. They sliced like a wedge out of his bone, chopped this piece off and brought it down so it's flat again.
Yeah.
So now it's just bone on bone and flat now instead of bone on bone at a distorted angle. Like, fuck, man.
Also, he can start over and go back to doing it.
Yeah. He just had another one. Just sent me a video of his, I don't know what he had done now, but he had another surgery.
Yeah.
On his knees. And, he's eventually going to have to get fake knees. And eventually it's just going to get to the point where they don't work anymore. And then they'll put artificial knees. But the problem with the artificial knees is I don't know how long they would last with the way he treats his body. Like he would not stop pushing himself if he had artificial knees.
Right.
I think those things are only good for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So what happens in 20 years? Like they got to go back in?
No kidding.
And put another one in there?
Right.
Open, cut the top of your knee off again?
Because he's going to live till he's 105.
Yeah, he probably will. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll probably be running. He'll probably die running. Running up a mountain and be very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's an animal. I mean, but you need people like that in the world to show you. You need people like Tim Kennedy and Cam Haines and those kind of people. You need people like that out there to set the bar very high. It helps. It helps all of us. Even if you're not interested in doing that kind of shit, like I don't work out as hard as they do, but it sets the bar much higher in comparison to what you would require of yourself normally.
Yeah.
You require more because there's people like that out there that are really getting after it. And then you realize you can do more. You can do more than you think you could do for sure.
I think, yeah, we've named all the ones that do that for me physically.
Jocko's another one.
I got to meet the other day Theo Vaughn. He's that for me, like
He's
in
my
comedy.
Man. I love that dude.
Yeah, I met him at the Power Slap deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's like that all the time.
Yeah, he's like that all the time. He's hilarious. He's such a fun dude and such a good guy. And, he's like that. He's on all the time. Like he's on when you're out at dinner.
Yeah.
He's on when you're just hanging out.
He can't turn it off.
No. That's Theo.
And he's tall.
It's such a unique kind of comedy, too. Like his comedy is like nobody does comedy like him. It's so different.
And if anybody tried to imitate it, they would know exactly who they were imitating at the time, and it would be a turnoff.
My favorite joke, he goes, my cousin got bit by a gay guy, so we'll see.
Somehow,
What does that even mean?
He gets away with whenever he's like, no, I'm not racist. I have some flare-ups in traffic. But other than that, like how do you get away with that? The stuff he gets away with is hilarious.
He's such a fucking character. He's
Yeah.
such a fucking character.
Yeah, he invited me out to a show, and I'm gonna go.
He's another dude that seems so happy that he got out of L.A. L.A. was just not for him. When he moved to Nashville, I was immediately like, that's a way better fit for you. And he's talking about coming out here.
Yeah, do you think he will?
I hope so. He's got a home here. One thing about comedians, they need a place where they meet up with other comedians.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just be that dude on the road with only your opening act. Like that guy's lonely. It gets weird. Yeah. You got like we're a tribal group.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be around our people. And when you're hanging out like at the mothership in the green room, we're all talking shit and laughing. It's like that's our comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that club is like. It's like a clubhouse. Like it's a place where we can go. We're all practicing our art form. We're all getting better at it. We're all feeding off of each other, getting better at it. We're all helping each other with jokes. We're all talking shop in the green room. And I got this bit. I can't figure out where to go with it. We're trying to break things down, and we're coming up with taglines for each other. It's fun, man. And we had that in LA before the pandemic with the Comedy Store, and and Theo, when he was here, is like, man, this is what I miss the most. And I was like, well, this is where it's at, man.
Yeah.
This is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to what we set up with that club was like to have a place where all of us could go and have that support and have that place where you're like, oh, this is my home base. And that's why I wanted to call it the mothership, because you'll go from there and you leave to go to other places. You leave to go but you come back to the mothership.
It's such a good system.
Yeah.
And maybe he can bring Bobby Lee to be his. Maybe
Bobby Lee's never moving here. I talked to him on the phone the other day. He's like, "Fuck you, Joe. I'm not coming to Austin. You're tricking everybody into coming to Austin. Fuck Austin."
He's scared he's gonna have to live here if he comes and visits.
Oh, I don't think it's that. It's just being silly. He's just being Bobby Lee. But he stays in his neighborhood in LA, and he's like, "Where I live is fine." It's like I don't go to Skid Row.
Yeah.
I don't go to the places that suck. I just stay where I'm at.
Well, that camaraderie is that's one of the major things with rodeo. And I was talking to my guys that work for me, you'll miss the thrill of, depending on how you feel about it. If you are one of those passionate individuals that loves actually the fight, you'll miss that. The very next thing, if not the more important thing, is the guys and being behind the chutes and going down the road, that camaraderie of going down the road with, that's the other thing. And it keeps you going a lot of times, when you feel like you want to quit, when you feel, especially when you do it for a living, when that's you're rodeoing for your income. And so there's rodeos that you want to be at, and then there's rodeos also hey, I need to make money, and so you're going. But no matter, even those rodeos, they're still you're on the back of the chutes, and it's the epitome of freedom. It's the standing on the back of the chutes. I remember, I think it was Clear Lake, South Dakota, and I just had this aha moment, standing on the back of the chutes, being a kid from Texas and going to those rodeos, and the national anthem was playing, and it was just, this is freedom. And I don't know that you have a more patriotic bunch than, for me at least, the most patriotic individuals I've come across, barring, as a group, barring the actual ones doing the fighting, rodeo cowboys are very appreciative, because we get to see that freedom every weekend. That's our job.
When people do something that's very difficult and controversial, and it becomes their passion, they really value freedom. And when you're doing something that other people maybe don't understand because they don't have experience in it, they don't know why you even doing that. You shouldn't even be able to do that. They don't get it. They're not a part of the life. And that's why it's important to hear people like you talk about it, because someone who might have had an opinion based on just a peripheral understanding of what rodeo riding, this is stupid. Why are they into this? Who cares about ranching? Yeah. And then you hear you talk about it, and you're like, hey, there's someone listening to it right now. They're like, maybe there's something in there that I don't understand because I just haven't experienced it. Maybe it's parallel to things that I enjoy in my life that maybe other people wouldn't understand.
Well, I think, you mentioned the controversy. I think a lot of the controversy that's in and around rodeo and ranching are because people don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so they just make assumptions and they're uneducated. For instance, that bull bushwhacker, we can slow it down, and I can show you we don't have to, but the point is nothing's wrapped around his balls.
Right.
You know what I mean? A flank rope, it's a cotton rope about 6 feet long, and it's the equivalent of you tightening up your belt. That bull is doing that because he wants to, and it's in his blood, and that's what he wants to do. You're not going to make that animal do anything.
There's a rope around their balls, and people
No, there's not one.
There's not a rope.
But for some reason, people think that that's what the flank is. And, in bucking horses, some of them are mares. So even if that is what we were doing, what are you going to do with a mare?
Right.
But it gives them something to kick at. They're horses that are going to buck. And if they don't want to buck, especially horses, when they feel pain, they're running off. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they might run off just if they're scared or something. But so if they were in pain, they wouldn't be bucking. They would stop. Eventually, you would train them to stop if they were in pain. Mm-hmm. And they don't experience pain like that. And you're on their back, and
they just don't want you on their back. And the fun part is riding them when they don't want you riding them.
Yeah. But you get around bulls, you can walk back there. There's so many bulls that you could walk up to and rub all over in the back pens. and then you run them in the chute, and they know that game. And when you open the chute, they buck like crazy just because they want to. And so, like, yeah, they're trying to buck you off. But if he doesn't want to buck, he ain't going to. You're not going to make him do that. Like, you can't train them to buck. There's little things you can do to improve their bucking, but you're not going to make an animal buck. Like, I said I bought one at the sale barn. Like, I've probably bought 20 bulls at the sale barn. And this one that I got is the only one that made it. Like, most bulls that you see, like, they're not going to be bucking bulls. Like, it's a unique, same thing with horses.
So it's just in their genes.
It's in their genes. It's in their genetics, and they want to do it. Kind of like how some horses are better at, hunter-jumper stuff or, racing. Like my horse Boone can't run out of sight in a day, but he's a good ranch horse. So that's what I've got him at. And then I got this, bucking horse that we call Baptist, who went to the NFR and bucking, and like that's what he was made for.
And when you get a bull like Bushwhacker, is it like very valuable to breed that bull?
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, guys are paying $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 for bulls, $500,000 for bulls. The last thing you want at a $100,000 bull, the last thing you want is for him to feel pain. He's going to sleep in a little padded pen and maybe an air-conditioned barn in the summer, a heated barn in the winter. Like, some of these bulls have cushy lives. And again, if they weren't doing that, they'd have been dead at a little over a year.
Right.
So, I don't know. I
think people think of it the way they think of bullfighting, like in Mexico.
Right.
Like when you see the matadors and they stab them and all that shit.
Yeah.
I think people connect rodeo to what they think of as the cruelest aspects.
I think also they think of these animals as having the same pain tolerance as a human. Mm-hmm. Like these dudes they're not coming inside in the winter in a hailstorm.
Yeah.
They're just going to sit out in it and be fine. Like it's a completely different species.
Yeah.
And people look at it like, oh man, if that happened to me, that would hurt. Yeah, of course, because we're humans, And like, I'm not trying to justify anything. All I'm saying is you're dealing with a different species. And like, there's just things that aren't painful to them. Like, for instance, a flank. Like, it's a cotton rope. Like, I should have brought one. It's so simple. I've done a lot of tutorials on my YouTube where I show, like, I put one on Boone in a YouTube video, like my ranching. He's like a gentle horse. Like, I put a flank on him and we turned him out and he just walks out. He's like, dude, I'm not a bucking horse.
Right.
And there's a lot of misconceptions like that also in the ranching world. You might see somebody treating animals like shit because in some exceptional video that goes viral in the dairy or something where somebody...
Yeah.
But that's not the norm.
Right.
People don't feel like that. Like,
right.
Dude, when my dog died, I cried, Like, I don't want to if I have to put something down, I'm probably going to call my brother. Like, I don't like to do that,
Right.
But that's a misconception. That's why I say that, like, the animosity is really just because people aren't educated. And at the base of it, some people do put animals and unapologetically put animals on the same level of humans. Well, then we've got a different belief system.
Yeah.
And now we're going down a road where we're probably not going to agree on a lot of things.
Right. Right.
Because as much as I love animals, they're just not more important than humans.
No, not to me either. They're very important to me, but it's a different thing. I value humans above everything else. And that's how animals feel about their species too. And all animals. And that's the rule of nature. It's fucking tooth, fang, and claw. We've just managed to figure out cities and buildings and cars, and we've managed to shield ourselves from it to the point where we don't think we're a part of the cycle of life, but we are. We're just in a very distorted version of it where you could just go buy the meat at the store. So by hiring a supermarket hitman, somehow or another you feel like you are immune to the pain and suffering. And so those kind of people, there's a lot of people that eat meat that don't like hunting. And that to me is just very strange. Like, you're consuming food, then you have zero idea where that food came from. You don't have a goddamn clue what kind of life that animal had, and you eat that and you're fine. But you think there's something wrong with someone going out and getting it themselves in the wild, which to me is crazy. And it's also like it's just ignorance. It's convenient thinking. Convenient thinking that you're in a morally superior position because you're not involved in the actual death itself. And I don't think that's true at all.
And those animals do not. I mean, you've got some instances with certain horses, maybe certain dogs, but it's an exception to the rule. But the rule of thumb is animals do not reciprocate that love. You know,
Right.
like Theo had that mortician on, and he was talking about like it takes a cat like 24 hours. If you die in the house, that cat's eating you.
Yeah.
And most dogs, all small dogs, are eating you. Like
Oof.
within 24 hours.
Really?
But the guy said that something about labs won't. Like it'd take a lab a long time before a lab ate you. But like a little dog, as soon as they're hungry, they're going to eat you.
Really?
So like you got all this love for this animal and like you die and he's like, all right, I'm eating you, Kathy. You know? Which I'm not trying to say that Kathy shouldn't care for her dog.
Right.
All I'm saying is like there's an order, I think, that was the way God designed us, and I'm not saying that means that we have a right to abuse animals at all.
No.
And because again, those are exceptions to the rule in my industry. Like people don't like other people that like do bad things to animals.
No,
Like, we
it's
need
a
to be
sign
respectful.
of a serial killer.
Yeah,
Someone that tortures animals or hurts animals, that's
it's
a
bullshit.
sick person.
It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, it's a
And
sick person.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
It's not something that exists.
Well, those PETA videos have like really poisoned a lot of people's minds too. But then there is the reality of factory farming, which is, in a lot of ways very cruel.
Yeah.
We've all seen those trucks filled with pigs or trucks filled with chickens going down the road, and they're all slammed in there together, and it just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And that's real too. But regular ranching, like what you're talking about, it's not the problem.
I harvested that elk. I mean, bow kills are right there. And the second arrow, we had lost an elk that morning. Like, we ended up finding him, but at the time, I was like, I don't want this rascal to leave, so I put a second arrow in him.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the sun beamed through the trees, it just like highlighted him in the video. And I was going to post it in the next day or two, and then that arrow hits him and a little bit of blood comes out. And I was talking to Cam about it, and he was like, man, and he went over like the death thing. Like, imagine that elk's death outside of like this merciful arrow,
Yeah.
And there are parts of it that are brutal, that like, meaning like, just like, I don't know, manly and wild, and like it seems barbaric a little bit. But compare that to just that stun gun when they're going down a chute,
Right.
Like it's not, I mean, like that guy's probably a little more numb to it than anybody. you
Right.
know, which I think, hey, I need to eat, so do what you got to do.
Yeah, but that guy's just whacking them all day long. Bank.
Right.
Bank.
Yeah.
Bank. Bank. Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a certain level of connection that you get with nature as a cowboy, and you do get faced with death. And, like when you're tending to animals, like it just happens. I lost one of my dad's pickup horses the other day. He died. He colicked, and, like you're faced with it, and we cut off part of his mane and pulled his shoes off and put him out in the pasture, where he got to, go back to dust. But it's part of life, whether we like it or not. And like you said, like you're not escaping it by going to the grocery store. You just don't have to look at it.
Exactly. And you're not also escaping the horrors of monocrop agriculture and what that does to animals. The idea of having thousands of acres of corn, and when they harvest that corn, all sorts of shit is getting chopped up with that corn.
Yeah.
Also, whatever grain, whether it's wheat, alfalfa, whatever, when they're harvesting that stuff, there's a lot of animals dying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of
Absolutely.
animals dying. And then there's a lot of groundhogs that get killed, a lot of gophers get killed, a lot of things get murdered in order to make sure that you have those vegetables that you think are so ethical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and yeah, the farming side of it is something I don't know. Them sod busters. It's kind of like the difference in roughies and Tommies, like the segregation. It's playful, like we absolutely need farming, and I got a lot of friends that are farmers. It's just not something I'm as familiar with.
That's another thing, though, that gets in your blood. the people that really enjoy. I think there's certain things that speak to human evolution, and hunting is one of those. Like, you don't know that you have this connection with it until you do it, and then it feels so right. It feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing to get meat. Like, this feels natural because humans did it for thousands and thousands of years. The same with agriculture. I'm sure the same with cowboying. There's probably something in it that like speaks to a part of who you are and how we became a civilized agricultural society, that you had to be good at this in order to survive. And so this is sort of baked into the human DNA.
Yeah, and there's certain parts of it that are, maybe difficult to digest, but that doesn't mean they're wrong.
Right.
When they're new to you and it's your first time seeing it, like it might be unique and different and at first glance make you uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that it's evil.
Right. That's the thing. It's like if people are very limited in their experiences, but very confident in their opinions.
Yeah.
And sometimes those two things don't go well together.
Right.
With unique things and things that they don't really have knowledge of, like cowboying, like bow hunting, like a lot of things. Like, they don't understand it. Like, why would you want to do that? But if you did it,
you'd understand.
How much bow hunting have you done?
That was my first bow hunt.
Wow.
September. That was the
first
time,
bow hunt for an elk. That's wild.
it's the first time to kill anything with a bow.
That's a wild thing to kill for your first thing.
Yep.
That's the big one. That's the top of the food chain.
No
for
kidding.
Bow hunting.
I was nervous, and Wayne Endicott, he was like, man, you need to get out there in the brush and find some rabbits and whatnot. But like, time got away from me, and I just didn't. But I practiced a lot. And we were kind of glassing this 1 6x6, and I was nervous.
Where were you? What part of the country?
I was in Kremlin, Colorado, place Bear Mountain Outfitters. This Brad Probst, he was a genius all week, and my inexperience kept me from getting this big 6x6. Like, I should have drawn on a couple of bulls, but I just didn't like step out when I needed to.
Right.
And he was walking me through it. So the last hour of sunlight, we're watching this 6x6, and my heart was racing. And then he kind of trotted off. My heart calmed down, and then out of nowhere, this 5x5 came up, and so it caught me off guard. And I was able to.
Is this it?
Yeah, this is the second shot. And man, Jamie, you found exactly. You see the blood, the puff of smoke.
Show me that
and the
again.
sun.
Show me that again, Jamie. Back it up. To the shot.
Yeah, this is my second one. That one's at like 70 yards.
That's quartering away hard too.
And then you see the blood. I mean, obviously he was already dying. I was just nervous we were going to lose him.
Oh, that
and
was a perfect shot.
I didn't really realize he was dying.
Yeah, but it's always good to get a second arrow in him if you can. Always.
I was so jacked. But Brad was like, he's going to come right there, and just perfect.
Wow.
It was
it's a wild feeling.
It was intense. It was so crazy.
Yeah, it's very intense, very hard to keep it together on the shot, and then when you're eating that animal, the satisfaction of it is just amazing.
It's crazy how good it is.
Yeah.
It's not gamey.
No, elk is delicious. It's so good.
It's not gamey
It's
at
so
all.
good for you, too. It's so filled with nutrients and vitamins. And it's just, you feel it when you eat it. You're like, "Urgh." Feel fucking energized.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll be eating too many steaks.
Yeah.
Like on carnivore, like I eat a lot of steaks because I love beef.
Yeah, me too.
It's really good to like go to some elk every now and then.
Yeah.
Where you're not, it's so lean.
Mm-hmm.
So
You got to get your fats in if you're doing that. I usually eat it with bacon, or I cook it in beef tallow too.
Well, it's probably usually just the next meal I'll go back to a steak.
Yeah. Well, that's good too.
And I'll get plenty of fat from my ribeyes.
Yeah, though that's the best one in terms of like just being able to get your protein and your fat. A good marbled ribeye is the best.
Oh man, I'm a ribeye man.
Yeah, me too. That's all I order. And when you get your body accustomed to eating like that, man, it just feels so normal. It feels healthy. Like I never feel like bloated or stuffed or just like exhausted from food. Just
lunch is so easy.
Yeah, easy. Eat it, feel great. I did it all through hunting camp. I just ate steak and eggs. That's all I did.
I cheated one time Well, so like I do a little bit of fruit, and then I'll do like Mountain Ops supplements. Like, so like I guess I kind of cheat a little, but like I don't do any breads or sugars. But I'll do like protein
That's the most
shakes.
important thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with fruit.
But
I don't think fruit is our problem. I think the problem is processed foods. That's the number one problem. What the carnivore does is it's an elimination diet. So it takes out almost everything that might be fucking you up. It takes out all the sugar, all the bread, all the pasta, all the processed food, anything that might have glyphosate on it, anything that might be, irritable to your body and cause inflammation. And then you just feel better. And then once your body adapts to eating just protein and fat, then you're running off of ketones. There's many times when you're doing a carnivore diet that you're essentially in ketosis. And when I find myself in that state, my brain works better. It's just like I can think better. I can form conversations better. I'm just like I'm less foggy. I feel like I have an extra gear to communicate with.
I think it was like a year ago I heard you say all that.
Yeah.
And because you had said, you occasionally you might cheat on sushi because you love sushi. And you gave that, what you just said. And then I heard the deal about cholesterol, and like half of the people that die of heart attack didn't have high cholesterol. And I was like, all right, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I started in Christmas. And then I've been good all year. And then on 4th of July, I go to, I think you might follow, I saw you follow one, Hannah Barron.
Yeah.
She does the noodling.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Every year I go. And Jeff, her dad, convinced me to eat ice cream, and I didn't poop right for a week. So it had been 7 months.
No sugar, no bullshit.
And I ate that ice cream, and for a week, I kept texting Jeff. I was like, this is your fault.
Yeah.
But no, that is a crazy, watching that 110-pound girl pull out 75-pound catfish with her hand.
Yeah, that noodling thing is nuts. Because what if you get a snapping turtle?
Well, they say that, well, number one, I don't do it without Jeff over my shoulder. His big biceps keep me safe. But they say that like snapping turtles and snakes aren't going to be where there's not oxygen.
Oh.
So if the hole is completely underwater, then it's like 99.9% that you're okay.
So how do you find a catfish? Like the water's brown. So what are you doing? You're just sort of feeling around?
So I've been in Texas, and you kind of just got to like either know where the holes are, like a rock, or you just go down the banks. We just go down the banks and reach in, and you'll find 3 and 4 pounders. They don't let you put boxes out in Texas, but like where we go over there in Alabama and around there, it'll be like they'll put a box out.
What does that mean?
So like a little smaller than this much of the table, there'll be maybe about where your coffee cup is, and they'll put a hole in it on the corner.
Oh, to set it up so that the catfish go in there.
So I think the way it normally works is the female will come in, lay some eggs, and then the male will come in and protect the eggs. And there's only a certain time frame that you do it. And you go in and you put your arm in and you wave it around like this. You'll get shoulder deep in that, and immediately they sense you. They know you're in there. The catfish does, and they'll go to bite them. Like a blue, the blues are like super aggressive, and like you can tell the difference. A flathead will kind of bite.
So that's a box?
Yeah, those are some different boxes that guys will put out.
And then you just reach your arm in there and grab the catfish, and it bites your arm. And then we do grab
bite your arm, and then you'll move to like putting your Hannah should have. Yeah, so that's Jeff on the left. That's Jordan. She works for me. That's not Hannah. Jordan, she rides bulls.
And so right there's a hole, and they're reaching in trying to grab a hold of this catfish. So what are you feeling around for?
So you put in there, and then you kind of you just feel that fish, and 8 times out of 10 they'll bite your arm. I don't know if she gets one caught right here. Oh, it is.
Whoa.
And you're reaching in there, you grab their bottom jaw with your hand, and then you run your left hand under the gill plate so you don't mess up their gills, and you pull them up.
And are you letting these things go, or are you eating them?
Yeah, most of the time, like, because you can catch, like one day we caught 20. So like we'll let them go most of the time. Like you might catch one or two and eat them. Like that night, I think we kept 2 and we ate. And you keep the males because the females are obviously gonna. The yellow cats eat so good, and
Like, how do you cook them?
cut them up into chunks, roll them in flour, and then put them in oil.
Deep fry them?
Well, first you soak them. Jeff does this. He'll soak them in red hot for a little bit in a baggie, like the chunks of them, and then roll them in just flour, and then put them in oil and pull them out, and then put a little bit of garlic salt on them. It's the best fish. I don't know that's my. That and elk hunting, like those 2 trips rival each other.
Really?
That's
Noodling is as fun as elk hunting.
They're
Really?
just so different. They're so unique. It's like, but you just got to experience it. It's such a rush, and then you grab it, and when you come out with those big fish.
So this is how you cook it?
Yeah, that looks like Hannah probably. Yes. Yeah, they'll cut them up like that, and
then once you get them into chunks, then he does the red hot.
he'll put the red hot in that bowl or in a baggie. Take that little skin off that's on there.
What's it similar to? I've had catfish fried before. I've had fried catfish, like fillets.
Yeah, it's like a really tender and better tasting, like chicken.
Really?
Like that's the only thing I can think that would be the closest thing to it. But yeah, you can't leave it in the oil too long, and you want to, as soon as you cut it up, you need to be cooking it pretty quick. It can spoil real fast.
And the big ones taste good too?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference between the big ones and the little ones, how they taste?
I think now that I'm thinking about it, there's probably a way to like bleed them after when you're cutting them up at the end, like where you let that blood get out of the meat.
They usually say that you're supposed to bleed them like right when you first catch them.
We don't do that.
Could you keep them alive for a while? Do you keep them
No,
on a
we don't.
stringer?
I mean, like, it might be like 2 or 3 hours before we, start cutting them up. Mm-hmm. But you don't. Yeah, we don't bleed them right away. No.
So what do you do when you catch them? Do you put them on the shore? Do you put them in?
We just throw them in the boat.
A boat.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put them in the boat, and
they can
like
survive just breathing air for a long fucking time, can't they?
I think. I mean, it looks like it when their jaws are kind of clapping.
That's the unique thing about catfish and like some carp too, right? They can just come up and get some actual air.
Yeah, Jeff and Hannah would know better than me.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're the extent of my, like like I said, I've gone a few times in Texas. I get a little nervous about it, but it's such a rush grabbing them and pulling them out of those holes, man. I don't know, something about it. You should try it one day.
Okay.
I think you might really enjoy it.
I bet I probably would.
I don't think you'll enjoy it more than elk hunting. That was maybe a little bit strong of a statement to make.
I don't think that's possible.
But it's just a different thing.
Yeah.
And it is so fun. But
well, I love regular fishing.
Yeah. Once you start catching them with your hands, it's kind of like bow hunting compared to like sitting in a deer blind. Like it's not that you throw rocks at it, but man, once you kill something with a bow, that's how you want to do it. That's how I feel about. I'm sure bass fishing, would still be fun to me. I haven't gone since I've gone noodling, but pulling them out by your hands is just like, it's like the man stuff.
Tell that to Hannah.
Dude, no kidding. Like
She's
that
a tiny girl.
You throw her out in the wilderness and she will survive.
Yeah.
Plus, she's also gorgeous. So.
Yeah, there's not a lot of chicks like that out there.
No.
But when they are, boy, they could really do some damage on social media.
You would expect a girl that's that good at pulling catfish out of a hole that, they'd have a dip in and maybe, look a little different than Hannah. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's another weird subculture, southern subculture of noodlers that people would look down on. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I can't remember. Like she'll like go out that and then go hunt squirrels. Like she does all of it. Like Jeff and like they're country. They're gonna be all right. They're country.
Country boy can survive.
That's
the old Hank Williams Jr. song.
That's it. Yeah, I'll be all right so long as I got access to some cows and horses.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you do a little bow hunting too now.
Yep. I'm in. Yeah, I'm hooked now on that.
Oh yeah, that's one thing that when September rolls around, there's also something that's so unique about elk hunting because, you're sneaking up on them. Hopefully, they don't even know you're there. You're experiencing the screams, the bugles, and the rutting, the fights when they smash into each other. It's like you feel so fortunate to be just witness to that stuff.
And the small window, like you said, September, really like even just a few weeks, depending on where you're at, that you have to like go after them, And I guess that's one of the things about elk hunting. Like, I have nothing against, the longbow, the rifle, but, and I've harvested a lot of animals that way, but like being able to Cam was like 1 yard away from that one that he shot.
I know that was very unusual. He was in the middle of the trail, and the elk had no idea he was there until it was like literally, I think it was 2 yards away from him. So it was from me to you when he releases the arrow. It was just bananas.
Bananas. You don't even use your sights.
Well, he used his 50-yard pin because even though something's very close, what happens is when you are very close to someone, even though it's very close to a target, even though it's counterintuitive, you want to use the more distant pin because it takes a while for your arrow to rise up and hit its apex. So when it comes straight out of the bow, if you try to use like a 20-yard pin, you'll be hitting it very low.
Really?
Yeah, you want to use a 50-yard pin.
Dang.
At like 2 yards. I know it sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But it's just understanding the arc of the arrow when it leaves the bow. So when your arrow leaves the bow, it goes up and drops in. And so you have to have that sight up in order for it to go straight at 6 yards because it hasn't started the climb yet.
That makes a lot of sense. I would have not known that in the moment.
It's very counterintuitive. Yeah. You would think, oh my God, I can't even have the 20-yard pin. I got to like roll it back even further, but you don't. You have to roll it up higher.
Yeah.
It seems I've never done it before. I've never taken a frontal shot like that either, which is also you have to really understand what you. I mean, he did it perfect. You see the arrow; he went right through the animal's heart, and he has a photo on his Instagram of the animal's heart with the arrow poking out of it. It was the perfect shot. But that's a deep understanding of not just what pin to use, but of anatomy, when to pull the trigger, like what to do. You have to be very, very experienced to do what he did there. Even though it seems like, oh, that was so easy. You shot it at 2 yards. I probably wouldn't have shot it. I wouldn't have been confident enough.
Right.
And I might not have. I mean, if I don't have a pin that's set at 50 at that moment, what would I do? Like that's the arrow poking out of the heart. I mean, that is an absolutely perfect shot. You can't get any better than that. Perfect.
Yeah.
That animal died in 30 yards, which probably took 3 seconds for it to hit 30 yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was down.
3 seconds.
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah.
It's a quick death. It's a quick and merciful death. And again, that animal's not getting that death anywhere. I mean, that was in the mountains of Utah. They're surrounded by mountain lions. We saw some big one. I saw a big one there 2 years ago. Whoo, it was big. A lot of bears out there. They're starting to see wolves. There's real animals there.
And every few days, those mountain lions, bears, and wolves are gonna take down an elk.
Every few days.
Every few days.
They wreak havoc on the calves, especially the bears. Like when the elk are calving, the bears come out looking for it. They smell it. That's what they want.
Well, Cam's goal was to make more bow hunters and elk specifically, and he definitely did it with me.
Yeah, he did it with me too.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, he's the reason why I bow hunt. He got me into it. He taught me how to shoot, and then John Dudley gave me lessons, and those guys have taken me out deer hunting, elk hunting. It's a totally different life. You start doing that, and then it's like my best escape from the grind of what I do.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it because when you're out there, you're not thinking of anything else.
You can't.
When you're making a stalk on an elk and you're playing the wind and you got your boots off because you have to tread over leaves quietly. Like when you're not thinking of anything else. It cleans your mind of all your stress, all your things. The only stress you have is of doing what you've trained to do in that moment, that very intense moment.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, like especially having messed up early in the hunt and not stepped out and got this 6x6, I should have. So then I'm just trying to, play catch up. I mean, that was the only thing I was worried about.
And when you're at full draw and you're about to execute a shot, the whole world disappears. The whole world goes away. There's nothing happening other than those pins on the vitals, staying steady, executing your shot perfectly, making sure there's no movement. Everything's just fluid and perfect. And then watching that arrow fly and hearing that whack. It's like there's nothing like it in the world.
How many have you harvested?
It's a good question.
Dang. Well, that's enough.
There's like 15 now, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I saw them 4 or 5 out there.
Yeah, I got a whole archery range back with all the other bulls in it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's what
can
I
tell me and my Dusty person, the guy that manages that branch at the Sixes, is who went with me. And that first, the 5x5, my first shot before that one, he like comes up and the same thing I would have done. Dusty like tries to stop him with like a whitetail grunt in the video, like, "Brr," you know, like you can kind of, I don't know. It was just funny. Like you can just tell that, you know, we're kind of inexperienced in the elk game, but yeah, I mean, it was our first one. So,
well, whitetail grunt will stop them. Any noise will stop them.
it did that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need something.
Right. No,
Something
it
to
did
stop
right
'em.
then.
That's a whole different kind of hunting, that whitetail hunting. That is a mind game. You know, John Dudley and Jocko are right now, they're in Iowa and freezing their asses off in a tree stand. That's a totally different game. We just climb up in the tree and you wait all day.
Yeah.
And you wait all day and you wait many days in a row for this one moment where the deer's close enough.
Yep.
A deer walks by you. You just have to just hope that the wind is right and hope that you play it right and hope that they don't see movement. And that's a crazy game because I don't have the patience for it. I've done it before. I'll do it again. It's still fun, but it's a different mental game. I much prefer stalking, the physical difficulty of getting up the mountains, getting close to them, the fact that you need to be in shape to do all that. Because there's going to be times you got to get to that mountain quick. You see them coming around a ridge, you got to beat them over the side. If you don't get there in time, you're going to miss that opportunity. And so you have to be fit. And with the whitetail woods, it's totally different. You're just sitting there. The whole thing is just playing that mind game and not going crazy, sitting in a tree stand for 10 hours.
It's crazy they say that. I guess that's putting words to, like, I got back from that elk hunt and somebody's like, well, you're going to go whitetail hunting now? And I didn't have a drive to go do it. Like, I was more excited about elk hunting next year.
Yeah.
But it kind of took away some of the drive of, like, which I don't whitetail hunt a lot anyway, but I just didn't get I'll be excited about stalking maybe some pigs, which we have plenty of in Texas. Like, I might go do that because it's so similar, but the stalk of the elk hunt is so much of it.
Yeah. That's the way people have always done it, I think. That's why it's also the most difficult way because you really got to move slow. You really got to keep it together. And then there's the decision. Like, it turns broadside, now's the time, draw.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh my God, it's happening. And then you got to keep your shit together while it's happening.
That's it. That's exactly it.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. But man, that food that you get out of that is so delicious and so nutritious. It's so worth it.
And there's so much of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are certain cuts it's hard to compare to beef because they got to put beef in it. Mm-hmm. You know, like the if you get the hamburger or the sausage,
right.
you know, they're
adding fat. Yeah, they're adding beef fat.
Yeah.
Or pork fat, depending on.
They're just so different. It's hard. They look the same. You throw them on a plate, they're very similar, but they're just so different.
Yeah. No, it's an awesome way to get food, and again, it's an amazing discipline because there's so many layers to it. You know, I've been bow hunting now for almost 10 years, and it just keeps getting. I keep learning. You're always learning. Like if there's a belt system, you know, I'm probably like a purple belt in bow hunting.
Yeah.
You know, which is, you know,
I'm a white belt.
Still a shitload to learn. You know, I know how to do it now. I could pull it off. Like if I don't have someone telling me what to do, I know what to do. I know to check the wind. I know to move when he's not looking. I know where I'm going to be safe and where I'm not going to be safe. Where I'm going to have a shooting lane, where I won't. Don't take a shot that's not. This one won't work. This one he's quartering to. You don't have a shot. Yeah. You got to know when to shoot, when not to shoot, and all that stuff takes a long time to learn. And then you have to be confident in your shooting. So you have to put thousands of arrows down range. So like 50 yards to me is a chip shot. I get a 50-yard shot at a bull, I'm like, oh yeah, that's dead.
Yeah.
100%. Whereas like when I first started, like 50 yards, a half a fucking football field.
That's what I
Holy
know.
shit, that's so far.
Yeah.
But practice at 100 and 50 looks pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. They, that's where, I mean, it took me probably 4 months, before I felt comfortable with anything past 40, anything.
Yeah.
And then the second shot, like I said, was like 70, and I didn't have really time to think about it. I didn't even have a pin for it. I kind of had to stack a pin on top of, and
Get a pin gap. Yeah.
yeah. But it was the hours that it took to go into it. Like, I mean, I feel like an hour less, and I wouldn't have been able to harvest that elk.
Do you have a coach, like an archery coach, that someone shows you proper?
Wayne Endicott.
Oh, perfect.
I send him videos. Like once a month, I would, like, hey, is my form look?
Right.
Like,
Perfect.
Like I have nobody.
Right.
Cam, I'm sure Cam would help me. He's just so busy.
Yeah.
And Wayne is too. But
Wayne enjoys teaching people too.
Right.
He's an excellent coach.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, he actually coaches people. He's brought people
Right.
to competitions and such.
yeah,
Yeah, no, he's awesome. And that bow rack is a great, great fucking place too.
Yeah.
It's like to have a place like we have a place like that in Texas, Archery Country, which is just like that. It's an amazing place. It's like having a bow shop is so important. Having people that really know how to tune a bow correctly, so you really have confidence in your equipment. And, you could go to them and say, "This something seems off. There's something I'm hitting low. Something's going on. Oh, your strings are stretching.
Yep.
Let's fucking recalibrate this." And it's so important to have someone who really knows what to do. And the bow rack's a great resource for that, as is Archery Country.
yeah. I've heard you talk about them. There is one place in Weatherford. I can't remember what it's called. Like I like overdrew. Like I was trying to really extend and pull back at the same time, and the limbs crunched down and stayed down. They didn't explode, and then my string was all. And I sent a picture to Wayne, and he was like, "Send that to me now." But there was a bow shop in Weatherford, and I just went down, and they were like, "Oh, please set that down on the table." And I was like, "I don't know, here it is." But apparently it was like ready to explode, which blows my mind. But I think maybe it's from the heat. I left it in the backseat of my pickup only for like 2 or 3 hours, but it got pretty hot this summer. And I think the heat mixed with wind. But everybody was like, "No, it shouldn't do that." But they got it fixed, and I killed an elk with it, so it was fine.
I wonder what was wrong.
I don't know. I'll show you a picture at some point.
Show me the picture. I'm curious as to what the hell was going on with that thing. Look
But
at the size of that fucking belt buckle, son.
yeah, that's why. Look at that.
Champion
this
year.
I run into somebody, they're like, "Oh, good for you." Don't get the joke.
Yeah. It's such a joke too, because that's the most preposterous sized belt buckle of all
Exactly.
time. No one would ever wear a belt buckle that big. This is not a real belt buckle.
Yeah.
Like, this is a real belt buckle.
Right. Yeah, that's a normal belt buckle. Exactly. Yeah.
That thing's outrageous.
Oh man.
But that is a big thing about rodeo guys. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's stuck like that? That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? Like I just drew back and
Well,
it
your
just
string
kept
just
going.
blew out.
But they didn't even.
And
they
it went
didn't
off
even
the cable.
They didn't replace the string.
What?
Like they were like, "Yeah, the string's fine," and they put it back. And then I kept shooting for 2 more months and shot an elk.
So what made it? It came. If you look at the top, it's off the cams. The string's off the cams. I wonder how that happened.
Well, whenever it folded like that, the string was just so loose.
Yeah. Well, the string is off. If you look at the top cam, the string is not on the cam anymore. That's why it's so loose.
Oh, got you.
See how it's not connected anymore? The
That round thing is the cam?
Yes, that's the cam. That's the mechanical advantage as you're pulling back these like powerful limbs. It rolls over these cams, and your string was off the cam. So as it rolled over, your string doesn't have any resistance at the top. So
Gotcha.
it's just like it's got an extra like half a foot to pull back,
Yep.
and then it's just loose. So it's not connected anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good. It just doesn't make sense that it rolled over like that. I don't know. It must have fallen off. Something must have pushed it somehow or another. And then it was, as you drew back, instead of rolling through that groove, it went off the side. and then you had nothing, no resistance at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's just flopping around. It doesn't look like it would explode, but it definitely doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It would when they explode is when the limbs break. That can happen, but it's super, super rare, especially if you get a modern bow like a Hoyt. Like they dry fire those like hundreds of times to make sure that those limbs are fucking bulletproof.
Right.
By the time you get a Hoyt bow, that motherfucker's sorted out.
Right.
You know, they got so that is a cam issue. Something happened with that cam where the string, either the cam got loose or moved or the string got pushed off the side. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. It made me feel like an elementary school kid. Like I was just like, I'd done this thing and I was like, son of a gun. And I had no idea. Like, I don't know any of the terminology that you had been saying. Like, Cam handed me the bow in February and I shot it a bunch. And then I'd message Wayne every now and then. And then I would post a video and nine people would be like, give me criticisms. And I'd be
Of
like,
course.
shut the hell up. But then I would kind of do it, you know, I'd be like, okay,
Right.
but I'm going to remember that. And so
Yeah.
I just slowly, and then stuff like that would happen. And I just thought like, okay, if my target is at 40 yards, I can hit it. So if I can control my emotions, like I know how to hit that at 40, 50, 60 yards, if I can control my emotions in the moment, which hopefully rodeo had helped me do,
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
then maybe that I'll be successful. And so I was super confident in the back of my head just with my ability to do it. Like I was
Right.
also not naive about my inexperience, but if I could get drawn on one with a good target, I felt confident I could maybe kill him.
Well, I guarantee you that the nerves that someone must face when you're about to ride a bull or a bucking bronco is probably as extreme as anything you'll ever face in anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that would, without a doubt, help you with bow hunting.
I was more nervous to come on here than, I mean, like I could now dang sure be more nervous like to do stand up.
But this is easy. Look how easy it's been.
For sure.
It's been fun.
I guess there's just that, not that what I have to say is going to change anybody, but just like having listened to like, I mean, there's some of your podcasts that just like me personally have changed my life. You know,
Changed my life too.
You Know Me Park. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Yeonmi Park. Yeah.
I still think about her every day.
What her, you want to talk about adversity, man. That lady's life, that is an insane story. Escaping North Korea at 13 years old. I mean, horrific stories. But,
Crazy.
yeah, people like that have no patience for bullshit. You know, like, I don't want to hear your victim nonsense. Like, you know what I went through? Shit. She went through everything.
Why are you
Yeah.
fat? Just stop eating.
Yeah, so
That's
simple.
It. It's so simple. Like, just stop eating. Why are you fat?
People that have come from really hard places, they have no patience for nonsense. They just and they see it coming and like, oh my God, like you guys don't even know what you're bringing onto the world with all this crazy communism talk. Like,
No.
You don't even know what you're asking for. What you're asking for is the horrors of human civilization in its worst forms. Yeah, it's totalitarian dictatorships that dictate exactly what you could do, exactly what you could say, exactly what you could eat, how you work, what you say, how you behave, what you can dress like. That's North Korea.
Yeah, she said that
It's hell.
the only thing they were free to do is breathe.
Yeah.
They didn't even have a word for I. They don't have an I. You know, like, I mean, like it was you were sitting in front of her, you know that. But just
I
like,
think this. Yeah, they don't have that.
yeah, it's we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's North Korea.
She's who, it's just like people that, should we make communism a thing? All right, well, let's ask Park.
Right.
And put her on a pedestal and say, tell us. And then she would tell us.
Well, look at the people that come from Cuba. They don't want to hear no bullshit.
Yeah.
No nonsense. No nonsense.
Yeah.
Do you see the Biden administration is shipping people back to Venezuela? People that escaped Venezuela and came to America because they know they're going to vote Republican. They don't want to have nothing to do with socialism.
Yeah.
People that escaped that shit in Venezuela, they are the ones that they don't want. So
Yeah.
they're actively working with the Venezuelan government to ship back people to Venezuela.
I mean, that's what Park is. She's like, I didn't mean to, but apparently I'm on the right.
Right, exactly.
You know, like I'm on the right side of the aisle now. And
Yeah.
she talks about that. Like the left hates me for some reason.
Well, for some reason, they just don't want to look at her suffering and her story because it interferes with their narrative.
Yeah.
That we just haven't done communism right yet. That no one's done it correctly. What they don't understand is the only way to enforce communism is force. That's the only way to get people to give up their property and to fall in line and to do everything for the greater good of everyone else. And it's usually one group of people have mass control of the resources and wealth, which is what communist dictatorships are, and everybody else suffers. The idea of equality is not equality. It never works that way. That's not human nature. You know, if what you want is like genuine charity from people, what you want is people that contribute to the community and they think about it and they do it voluntarily, and it's reinforced by the culture. That's what you want. What you don't want is the government telling you that you have to give up most of your money for the greater good of everybody else, because then they just take it. And that's how it worked in North Korea, and that's how it would work everywhere. The only way to enforce that kind of life, because it's so unnatural for people to not exist in a true, like, what people enjoy in life is succeeding, the difficult struggle of trying to do something that's hard to do, and finding your own path, and through that freedom, becoming successful. A meritocracy, a real meritocracy, where everybody has a chance.
Yeah.
That's what we should strive for in this country. Meritocracies, not victim mentality, and certainly not communism. It's a terrible idea. And it seems like a good idea because why do so many have so much and others have so little? Well, the problem is the culture is not encouraging the people that have so much to realize that they're so fortunate and to help out in some way. That would be better. What's the worst thing is taking from those people and giving it to people who are doing nothing. And then you're creating this entitlement class. You're creating this group of people that think that somehow or another people that are successful are evil if other people aren't successful. And it's just a way to pit us against each other. And that's not what we need in this country. What we need is people coming together and realizing that we're all one big community and trying to do something for the greater good of the whole community, and encouraging people to do better in their own lives. Encouraging people and giving them the opportunity to work hard and feel that satisfaction of accomplishing something. That's what we should all be striving for.
So
somehow or another, that's right wing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
What I was about to say, like, pretty much everybody, like, where I come from, is, like, fist pumping. They agree with everything you just said. Like, selfishly, for me, like, as, like, you know, like, not selfishly, I mean, everybody's wondering it, but just, like, what do I do? Like, even just me specifically, like, with, you know, I've got a platform where comedy is my main thing. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's where I'm, like, there's so many things I want to talk about, you know, but, like, I think people come to me for an escape.
Right.
But so two different questions, like, what do I do on that level? But then also, what do I do just on the human level of, like, making that change? Or, like, how do you talk about that, because it's so divisive to people?
I think you live your life as an excellent example. That's what you do. You live your life, and people learn from watching you. They learn from, I want to live my life the way that guy's living. That guy seems fulfilled and happy, and he works hard, and it's obviously very satisfying for him. I want to feel that too. Mm-hmm. And through example, you live your life through, and you help people through the example of the way you live your life. That's real, man. You know, and that's what I get out of very inspirational people. Like we talked about Goggins and Cam and Jocko, and there's a lot of people like that out there that inspire me. And Jordan Peterson, and there's brilliant Douglas Murray, brilliant people who, through their own hard work and dedication, have carved out this life, and then through their words and their brilliance, inspire other people to learn and grow.
Yeah.
That's what's up, Dale Brisby.
What if they knock on your door?
Who's they?
I mean, like, you're in Texas, where the come and take it flag.
Oh, you mean what if the
originated.
government comes and knocks on your door? The problem is, in this country, people are very independent, and we're very well armed, and we're also not interested in being controlled by the government. And the problem with the government is it's filled with people, and most of those people that you would have to have control people are regular people. It's easy to convince some to turn arms against their brothers and sisters because the government tells you to do it. There are people that would fall in line with that. But I think they'd have a hard time convincing most people, especially most people that are genuinely patriotic that sign up for the military and for law enforcement. They're not interested in doing that. They're not interested in forcing the will of these people that are tyrants.
Yeah.
It'd be harder to pull off in America than it would a lot of places. Because I think America has instilled in us this love of freedom. And some people, that's one of the reasons why they try to demonize that, because that's very difficult to control people that have this reinforced love of freedom.
I agree with that.
And to convince you that it's for the greater good of everyone if we take away your guns, the greater good of everyone if you fall in line, for the greater good of everyone if you pay 90% in taxes, for the greater good of everyone if you do this, if you do that. And ultimately it's not. It's for the greater good of the people that are in control. And it seems like every time they make those decisions, the world just gets worse. It doesn't get more equitable and fair. It gets fucking worse. It gets worse. The economy gets worse. The people struggle more. It's not good. What we need to do is figure out a way to give people more opportunity to succeed, not to just give people things. And that's human nature. That's what makes people happy people. What makes people happy people is teaching them how to live their life and allowing them to live their life in a way that gives them the maximum amount of freedom and the most amount of satisfaction.
I guess I asked that, like I said, like my dad died 10 years ago, like 2 months before my first video, which was funny because he was the reason that it started, But, and then there was just like this gap where I was like, oh man, I've got to become a man now. And it means like I've got to make decisions that are going to affect me, and there'll be people looking to me like, well, how are you going to decide on this? And I get to set the tone. And there's certain things, like my faith, that are easy for me to make decisions on like what I would do in certain instances. But then there's other things like as an American, and that's what makes me ask that question, just like, how far do you take this or that? And that's where like listening to you talk about it on this podcast, listening to Marcus talk about it, like I've had to look outside of myself to make decisions on what kind of man, what kind of American I'm going to be. And that's what made me ask that question. Like, I guess, I just kind of looked to my dad on a lot of things and like default to him. And then him dying was just, it tested everything. I had to go back and like, not that I thought he was wrong, but just like start over in a way and just like reevaluate and
got to figure it out for yourself.
Figure it out for myself, because if I'm willing to die for it, then I better be pretty damn sure.
Right.
Right. And I don't know. Sometimes I think, people might say that and they're not willing to die for it. That's just sexy and fun, and they jump on a bandwagon. But like, I'm kind of more like, man, I better be careful, because if I do go down this route, that's what I mean. That's what I think I mean. That's what I hope I mean.
Let's hope that never is a problem.
But yeah, I don't think that would be a problem.
I don't think that's going to be a problem in this country. I hope not. But my real fear is that if a tragedy happens, if some sort of an attack happens, some sort of a horrific event happens, then they start clamping down on people. Because that's what they did right after 9/11. They passed the Patriot Act and the NDAA. That's where things get sketchy. When things get sketchy is they take advantage of something that happens, and then they clamp down on people more. In order to protect you and keep you safe, you got to give away some freedom. And that is just not the way to go. It took a long time to create something like America, and we gotta keep this thing going.
Well, I mean, there's some of those things that happen where it's strengthened. Well, meaning like for instance, COVID. Like I know in California, there were like lines around the block for people trying to defend them, get a gun so they could defend themselves.
Well, that was just fear. That was the George Floyd riots. because the defund the police movement, and they realized that cops aren't showing up anymore, and people's houses are getting broken into, and that's when people were lying around the block for guns. And I had like a lot of my liberal friends asking me if they could use one of my guns. I'm like, that's not how it works, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go get a gun. You got to go get one. You got to learn how to shoot it.
Right.
You don't know how to shoot a gun. I'm not going to give you a gun you don't know how to shoot. You should go to a range.
Change
you should get
teams.
Instructions. Yeah. You got to change teams, bro.
Change teams.
Change the team's Second Amendment.
Yeah.
And when you really need that, when you really need to protect your family, that's when you realize why the Second Amendment exists. You know, it's very, when you don't need it and it's not a concern in your life and it's never something that you've had to deal with, you could easily brush aside the idea that that's important, the ability to defend yourself. But it's very important.
It's just like Woodrow F. Call said in Lonesome Dove, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yes, sir.
And it's like that jiu-jitsu for me, that 1 in 10 year, 1 in 20 year, maybe never happen at all. Like, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, because it's about a 20-minute, before the cops can get to my house, it's like 20 minutes.
Well, in these days, like, you know, in a lot of cities where they've defunded the police, that's generous. It might be an hour. Even violent encounters.
You can't wait 20 minutes.
No, you can't.
It's just like the people that don't agree with ranching, but they still want that meat to be in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the level
Convenient
of delusion. Like,
convenient thinking. Yeah.
it's just, I'm just not gonna need a gun. Like,
But I know a lot of people, though, in L.A. that have experienced violent encounters that have completely switched sides.
right.
I have friends that were super anti-gun. Now they have multiple guns.
I'm curious. I don't know where she stood before. Sandra, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sandra Bullock. Have you heard that 911 call?
No.
She's in the house on the phone with 911.
And somebody's in her
somebody's
house.
in her house.
Is that out here? Where was that?
I don't know. Like, I've heard it online. Am I wrong, Jamie?
Is that recent?
I'm pretty sure that it's Sandra Bullock on the phone with 911.
Is it recent?
2018. Like, I don't, like I said, I don't know.
Scary shit.
2014 is when it happened. I'm sorry.
Okay. Scary shit, man.
But somebody like that, like, it's pretty tested. Like, you don't have time. You're
Right.
on the phone with the police.
Right.
You know? It's
Right.
and it's either you or them.
Yeah.
And that's like very basic, you know, but anyway,
Yeah. Anyway.
that's the cowboy logic. That's another thing that I think a lot of my people agree with.
Yeah. Well, it's sound logic.
Yeah. I just
Yeah. Be prepared.
It's
Better to be prepared than not be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dale Brisby, it's been fun talking to you, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
been an
I
honor.
enjoyed it. Tell everybody how they can watch your videos and see all that shit online.
Oh man, anywhere. YouTube,
Dale Brisby
Instagram,
Bull Rider on
YouTube.
YouTube.
and just Dale Brisby on everything else. RodeoTime.com.
There you go. Thanks for coming in, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for the hat, too.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right. Bye, everybody.